talkSPORT here with your sports headlines. I'm Amelia Beltrao. FIFA has vowed to plough on with plans to sell the World Cup despite backlash across the footballing world. UEFA, CONCACAF and the AFC have all criticised the plan. talkSPORT's US writer Brian Smith says it has no place in football.
I think if you're UEFA, if you're CONCACAF, if you're the United States, you have to stick together here. You cannot let Gianni Infantino continue to ruin football.
Apologies there. Italian football legend and 1982 World Cup winner Franco Baresi has died at the age of 66. He won 3 European Cups and was a Serie A champion 6 times with AC Milan. Italian football expert Daniele Fisichella has been reflecting on his career.
Baresi was nothing short of a legend. He represented the bridge between old school defending and modern defending across the 80s and the 90s. He was the archetype of Italian defender.
talkSPORT understands the Newcastle squad have been formally informed this morning that Eddie Howe's leaving. It's as we're expecting German Matthias Geisler to take over. Charlie Austin, who played under Howe at Burnley, says he can understand why his former boss wants to leave.
If new players are coming in that needed to be coached, he's the perfect coach for that to happen and make them to the next standard. But knowing Eddie as I do, he'd want to take Newcastle to the next stage. And that's with the players that unfortunately now have been sold on. Because you've got to think, who else come in for Bruno when they signed him? The big clubs didn't.
It says Bruno Guimaraes has asked Newcastle to delay his travel to pre-season training as he closes in on a move to Arsenal. Antonio Silva is having his Bournemouth medical this weekend as he leaves his childhood club Benfica. And Cole Palmer's threatening to send the bailiffs round to his new Chelsea teammate Morgan Rogers' gaff if he uses his ice-cold celebration. He trademarked it last year, but the Blues' new winger was actually the first to do it out of the pair.
talkSPORT News.
Mayors in England are to be allowed to keep some of the income tax and business rates collected in their areas, and Hamas says it'll only agree to disarming if Israel agrees to withdraw its troops from Gaza. More with them at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit, your go-to destination for quality tyres from great brands like Continental. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Showers in the north with some isolated thunderstorms in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Dry and sunny in the south.
Hello, good morning. You are listening to Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony on talkSPORT. So, after UEFA said they'll boycott the World Cup if Gianni Infantino's proposal continues, now the Asian Football Confederation has joined CONCACAF in speaking out against it. Is it game over for the FIFA president? How does football pick itself up from this sorry mess? Meanwhile, why haven't Newcastle formally announced Eddie Howe's departure? Could Amanda Staveley be getting involved at West Ham? And the Scottish Premiership returns tonight. This is Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony, and we're live on talkSPORT. A very peaceful, serene week at glorious Goodwood, looking at the Sussex Downs and all their beauty, and now I'm back with you for 3 hours of fun and mayhem.
Listen, it's as good as it gets, right?
Have you had a good week? Have you missed me this week?
I have missed you, to be fair. I mean, Adam's cool, but I'm very tired.
Yeah.
It's been like, candles at both ends. Doing this,
now.
being a media star, and then owning and running a football club, it's exhausting.
And trying to get around London has been your biggest bugbear.
Yeah, I've never been on a tube in my life until 2 days ago. It was a very humbling experience. I've never smelled so much BO in all my life, honest to goodness.
Do you now see yourself as a man of the people?
No, I want to get to the Premier League so I can buy a helicopter. Because I can't be doing with public transportation. Sorry, be a snob. It's very uncomfortable, very sweaty.
Yeah.
Although
quieter on a Friday because no one actually.
Yeah, today was lovely. I mean, a lot of idiots must still be working from home. It's the whole COVID world still, is it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was lovely and quiet.
Let's get straight on to this.
Eddie Howe?
This
No,
FIFA story.
FIFA.
No, we'll talk about Eddie Howe later.
Rub it in my face.
Listen, I'm gutted that Eddie has decided to fall on his sword, and I'm a little bit worried about Newcastle, but we'll come on to that.
We're
later
back to
in the
yesterday's
programme.
story, are we, FIFA?
Yeah, well, it's moved on a little bit this morning.
Sure.
Because now the Asian Football Confederation in the last couple of hours have come out and condemned Gianni Infantino's proposals to sell off stakes.
Very late combinations, aren't they? They're all panicking.
Competitions. Well, they are. Obviously, UEFA have come out strongest by suggesting they would boycott all FIFA competitions, including the men's and women's World Cup, the Club World Cup. There's actually an under-20 women's World Cup that's due to start in September, so we may find out if they'll go through with that threat very soon. UEFA's 55 member associations held an emergency meeting earlier this week, and as I say, they voted a boycott if FIFA proceeds with plans to sell stakes in its competitions to private investors. There was a statement released by FIFA, I think it was 4 o'clock this morning UK time, so we were all napping. They said nobody is selling football, but they did vow to continue with the controversial proposal to sell stakes in its competition to private investors. FIFA, in their statement, claimed the consultation process had been, quote, disrupted by incorrect media reports. It went on to say nobody is selling football. This is not something FIFA would ever entertain. So on one hand, you could see that as FIFA rowing back. On the other, that they're doubling down by saying they still plan to go ahead with it. How do you see it?
Yeah, I would say definitely they're still going to do the consultation. I said the devil's in the detail a couple of days ago. If it weren't for the media and Martin Ziegler breaking the story, they'd probably be getting on with this and quietly in the background. And that's where everyone's got an issue, because it's come out of nowhere. Obviously, people straight away are screaming Trump and relatives of Trump are to do with this. And this is money and capitalism and it's anti-football and we're selling the World Cup. And they're the headlines initially. I've always said I'd like to see the actual information. What is this worth to each federation? What's the overall effect? Football's not getting sold. The World Cup's not getting sold. When you read it a little bit more, I think it's a third-party company that's getting set up for commercializations. So it's very similar to what Barcelona and Real Madrid did, I believe, when they needed levers and financial raising over the last few years post-COVID.
But FIFA don't need more money.
No.
They've just had the most profitable World Cup ever.
It's not about FIFA. There are federations, not just, forget about, the world's bigger than the UK and Europe. There are federations around the world that can't afford pitches and kids that can't afford kits and boots and all that kind of stuff.
How much of the money filters down to those federations? That's
again,
the big question.
I said to you guys before you go out there with the headlines and all get your knickers in a knot, the devil's in the detail. This isn't going to happen now. It's been handled so badly by Infantino. It's been a disaster, a PR disaster. And obviously it's been broken by the press. And then you've got every other federation falling in line, which they could have done 2 days ago, but they were waiting for a few other people to do it first. And now they're all like, no, we're not signing up for this or doing this. But it's
safety
interesting.
In numbers.
Yeah, safety in numbers. And I was thinking about it on the way in on that lovely tube. Can you imagine if the EFL or the Premier League got approached, a similar kind of venture capitalist thing, and said, look, we're going to give every football club, let's just take the EFL, for example. We're going to give every EFL club an extra $4 million a year to spend on their infrastructure, their facilities, have less debt, and make ticket prices cheaper. But a venture capitalist firm might own a small percentage of the EFL. Or before people get controversial and think, I'm trying to sell the EFL, I'm not. I'm a board member of the EFL. I'm trying to show a comparison before everyone gets excited. How many of the 72 football clubs do you think would vote no? And my answer to this is that everyone always screams about FIFA's a bit of a dictatorship, but it's actually a democracy whereby you still have to have all the nations vote for this through, Alex, right?
Yes.
So Infantino can't just force it through. It was never going to happen that way, and I think it's dead in the water now.
Well, I was just about to come on to that. So in order for this proposal to be passed, FIFA's 211 members would need to vote. Therefore, Infantino would need 106 votes in favour.
Yep.
UEFA and CONCACAF members combined make up 96 of those votes. The AFC makes up 47. So
that's how democracy works.
It's dead, basically.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It is dead. And I guess they'll argue back.
Does it leave his position untenable, Infantino? The fact he was trying to slide this in through the back door before it came out in the media.
I think he's in the firing line. I think he'll argue that he's bringing the most revenue into FIFA that it's ever seen. And they're obviously been very successful at expanding World Cups and all those competitions. I don't think he'd resign. I think he likes the dollar too much. Yeah. So he'd have to have a serious payoff and then a parachute job, probably with one of these venture capitalist firms. But I think UEFA will do everything they can to force him out. There's no doubt about it. So, look, let's just say...
we believe that they're going to put up a rival candidate in the form of the PSG president.
Fair enough. We can have a debate about that one as well. But I think right now he needs to hire a better PR firm. Yeah. Because the way they've handled it has been an absolute disaster. And the headlines basically take away from the detail. And we don't really know what the detail is.
Do UEFA deserve credit, though, for finding their teeth? Because of all the confederations, that they've been the strongest with that threat of a boycott.
Yeah, again, I haven't got much to say about UEFA. It's great that they found their teeth. And my only hope is that this isn't going to damage some nations that needed money, or even UEFA itself. And let's hope down the line, UEFA don't go and sell a percentage of the Champions League to raise more revenue for the big clubs, and because people are going to call hypocrite. And those things might happen. This is the world we now live in.
I think what also doesn't sit right with a lot of people would be the involvement of the brother of Donald Trump's son-in-law.
Sure.
His firm, Thrive Eternal, were expected to lead the proposed investor group. And again, does that just show the relationship between Gianni Infantino and the US president is now too cosy for a lot of people to stomach?
No, that's just basically where you have relationships and networking. And if somebody comes to you, regardless of a relationship, and says, look, we think we've got something that's really interesting financially for your organisation and we want to make a proposal to you, there's nothing illegal about that. Of course, it looks dirty, it looks sully, all the words that the media are going to use because Trump's involved. But if you think about it, there isn't that many massive venture capitalist firms around the world with those kind of funds. The Kushners are one of them, and they have plenty of funds. So I'm not surprised.
Darren has got in touch on WhatsApp. He says FIFA is a non-profit organisation. They already have $4 billion in a bank account. They don't need this. Just give the money in the bank account to the smallest nations.
Yeah, that's a great point. But again, I haven't audited or looked at their accounts and what they need in the account and what they use it to pay for. But that's a great point. But the one thing I'd say is there's not enough money spread around the smaller nations. And that's something that needs to change. And I guess there'd be a few of those nations who thought they were getting an extra 40 million that'd be very sad about this. So, they'll look past all the furore and the media stuff and go, well, are we really selling the World Cup? Because I believe the company that was getting set up doesn't actually own FIFA. It's a subsidiary, going to be a side company. So it's not actually owning the World Cup. This is just all about capitalism, politics, and again, it's wrong place, wrong time.
And I think it's also a lot of people have lost faith in Infantino.
Because of America,
because
Trump,
of the way he's
everything.
behaved over the last few years.
I get it. If this had been in a year's time, there might not have been such an aggression that's come out about it.
Yeah.
I just think the timing sucks.
Yeah, on the back of the Flo Balogun.
Everything that was just posted and pushed in the media during the summer. Infantino is not innocent in all of this. Like I said, he needs to hire a PR person. He's a megalomaniac. I think we know that.
That was the exact phrase I was going to use.
Yeah, he is. But look, lots of people are. But he's going to stand there and defend his position and say he's probably the most successful FIFA president in a generation. And his job is to bring revenue in, and that's all he's doing, his job.
This does all feel a little bit like the European Super League, though, when we found out about that proposal. Obviously, the fans were protesting on the streets, and that got quashed very quickly.
Yes and no, because the European Super League was going to, materially affect the EFL, domestic football, and all those leagues, and could have even buried us all, if it had got through. So selling a percentage to a company to put more revenue into FIFA and all these nations and whatever the detail was isn't really going to affect our leagues.
We're going to be hearing from Gordon Smith, former Scottish FA Chief Executive, get his take on this later. We've also got a clip from the former FA Chief Executive, Mark Pallias. He joined breakfast yesterday and, again, came out quite strongly against it. Keep your calls on this coming. 03717 722 3344 810 89 on the text. Is it time for Infantino to be forced out? Do we need a change at the top of the world governing body? You are listening to Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse, to where the trade goes.
Up and said you got 10 players better than John Stones.
No, but I said all time. I didn't say Prem, but let's stick to Prem. All right, let's do this.
Go on.
Virgil van Dijk, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Vincent Kompany.
Yeah, that's five.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we going Tony Adams?
Oh yeah.
No,
you're not gonna say.
No, but go on.
I would.
Campbell.
I'd do Sol Campbell, defo.
And I'm a Tottenham
Sol
fan.
Campbell, come on, Jamie.
Keep going.
I'm going Sol Campbell.
Yeah.
Oh. Gary Pallister.
Carvalho.
Mate, come on.
Carvalho.
Don't help him. Why are you helping him? Carvalho's not better than John Stones.
Carvalho. Ricardo Carvalho.
Jamie, hear me out.
Give me a break, man.
On his day, prime for prime, one game for a final, Ledley King.
Yeah, Ledley King. What, you telling me let the kill? Oh, come on, Jamie.
Listen, Jamie, not the career, but for one game in his prime.
I watched John Stones playing the Champions League final.
I know he
was
unbelievable.
He was unbelievable. So let's.
I hear it, but
come on.
I think, I heard.
Can't be putting Ledley King above John Stones. He's won 6 Premier League titles.
Phil Jagielka, mate. Phil Jagielka.
Holy shut up, mate. Come on.
I mean, mate, Jamie.
Jolyon Lescott.
I would go as far as to say if Jan Vertonghen and Alderweireld play.
You're listening to Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony on talkSPORT. We're talking about the big story from the last 48 hours. FIFA's controversial plans to sell stakes in its competition, sparking massive backlash from a lot of governing bodies around the world, including UEFA, who have threatened to boycott the World Cup if this proposal goes ahead. There was an emergency meeting earlier this week when all 55 members voted in favour of that potential boycott. The Scottish FA amongst them. We can speak now to Gordon Smith, former Scottish FA Chief Executive. Gordon, thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning.
It looks like this is now dead in the water because so many member associations have now come out in protest against it. None as strongly as UEFA, but it looks like it's not going to happen now. But does it still raise serious questions about the future of Gianni Infantino as FIFA president, in your opinion?
Oh, I think it does, yeah, no question of that. I mean, the whole thing about it is, I mean, when I was at the SFA and I was dealing a lot with UEFA and FIFA, there was no cohesion between them. They didn't really get on that well, UEFA and FIFA. So I can understand now why quickly UEFA have gone right against this, you know. But one of the things that I've been thinking about, though, since I've been looking at all the details of it, is the fact that we don't really know the circumstances. All he's saying is these people are coming in, they're going to invest in the World Cup and take a percentage of ownership. They haven't even mentioned what's that percentage that will be, what they want to do with the World Cup, what they'll be paying the clubs for playing in it. I mean, and Infantino just more or less is saying, you'll all get $20 million now if you agree to this and vote for it in favour of it. Now, he's also been saying there's going to be 20 billion coming in at the moment for this right away, for this money. So if each country gets $20 million, that only works out at about $4.5 billion, and he's saying they're going to put in 20 billion. So we're not really getting the proper information on what this is all about.
Devil's in the detail. I've been saying that for the last few days. Everyone's, panicking and obviously holding emergency meetings, and we don't know anything about it because you're right, Infantino's been quiet with that. I presume they were going to do that behind the scenes. I'm amazed the document I think you sent the other day to everyone hasn't leaked yet. I'm surprised Ziegler hasn't got that and he hasn't got that printed out there. But let me ask you, as someone from the SFA, where do you think they stand on if they were getting 20, 30, 40 million, extra millions of pounds? How influential and helpful would that be for Scottish football?
Yeah, I think it would obviously be a major help. But the thing about it is the way he was talking about it, saying you're giving all this money out to all the countries. Now, if you think about it, would England, Germany, Spain, for example, be happy with other countries like Haiti getting the money like that, Gibraltar, the same amount? You know what I mean? They would think to themselves, why are they getting the same amount as we're getting we're major countries in terms of world football, and yet he's going to give out the same amount to every single country, and some of these countries have got a smaller population than Manchester even. So you're looking at that scenario, and I think that's the problem with it. I think that we're not really getting told what the deal's about, because how much of the World Cup, the percentage of the World Cup, are they going to own these people when they put all this money in? What do they want for their money as well? What are they going to take from it? Because they're not going to put in 20 billion and take nothing from it as well. So they're going to be taking money from the competition. And also, it depends what kind of competition they're going to run, because look at the situation in the last World Cup there. Even in the final, a half an hour break at half-time, and all these breaks for drinks and all that were just to do with commercials, really, weren't they, more than anything else?
We're probably never going to find out now, because it looks like there's enough opposition that the proposal isn't going to be approved. But do you think UEFA are serious about their threat to boycott the World Cup and all FIFA competitions?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Yeah, that's what they'll say. The interesting thing will be whether it would be very interesting to see whether Infantino got these investors to go ahead with a World Cup without UEFA, and then actually share the money with every other nation. I mean, there's 55 UEFA teams, but there's 211 countries altogether that perform in the World Cup. Nothing like the situation, the size of the UEFA countries. But if these people were still willing to invest, say, in a World Cup without UEFA, who should say what might happen then?
Well, we haven't heard yet from the South American Confederation. We haven't heard from the South African Confederation either. So that's or the African Confederation. So let's see.
He made a great point there about, in the Premier League, always the argument about who's the big dog and who's the small dog and how you split the money and whatever else. And that's a really fair point at Haiti. I mean, I'm Irish, and the Irish Federation would love that kind of money because we haven't been very successful at getting to World Cups the last, few World Cups. But I guess the detail we're never really going to know. That's the disappointing thing about all of this.
You're absolutely spot on. That's what we need to. We need to know the detail, because let's be honest with you. If there's going to be a vote, that's what gets me to a certain degree, that he's actually asked all these clubs. Do they have any detail? All these countries, I should say. He's asked them all to vote in favour of it. Have they been given the proper details about what the percentage is? What's going to happen going forward? I mean, there was talk. I don't know if you saw it. They said that even maybe try and have the World Cup every 2 years. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I mean, that would take away a lot of the charm, wouldn't it? We are getting a lot of text on this, actually. Any money given to the nations now would be paid back, and more over time. Venture capitalists aren't looking to donate millions free of charge. Long term, those nations would be worse off. Reference FIFA. Darragh keeps giving out mixed messages. On one hand, everyone acknowledges FIFA is a non-for-profit organisation, but then he defends Infantino for making huge revenues. That's from Sid, the Villa fan. It would affect our league. What about player welfare when this group wants more games, competitions? The players are contracted to the clubs. Rodri already came out and said they played too much football. That's from Kath, and that sort of backs up the point that Gordon was making there about maybe a World Cup every 2 years. Alex says, whilst I agree with Darragh that this FIFA deal isn't selling the World Cup, does he agree it would leave the door open to increasing commercialisation of the on-pitch product? Surely those investors will want returns and therefore want more adverts in games, etc. Maybe even the influencing of where tournaments are held so they can increase revenues. I don't believe they will simply invest and then leave it.
Yeah, no, listen, some brilliant points there, and about the non-profit and then obviously the money that Infantino's bringing in. They are a non-profit, but that doesn't mean they can't bring in massive amounts of revenue and spread that money and put into foundations, charities across football. There was a great point about player welfare. I love that, because any private investor coming in is going to own a percentage, and it's not a percentage of the World Cup, it's going to be a percentage of this company. Yeah. Now, that company will have, obviously, rights to the World Cup and all other competitions. We don't know the flow of this, but you're right, player welfare would be in question. But I dare say the players and the agents will be getting a big piece of the pie as well, and we haven't even had that discussion yet.
Gordon, what's next for UEFA, do you think? Do you think they will now find an active challenger in terms of the FIFA presidency?
I think so. I think they'll obviously trying to do something. But as I said before, there was never no harmony between the two organisations. At that time, it was Blatter and Platini were the two, and they didn't get on. I mean, I'm not joking. When Blatter was speaking at any of the conferences and meetings, I used to look up, and Platini was making faces to other people in the audience as if to say, "Listen to this rubbish we're getting here." You know what I mean? They did not get on, and I think probably it's still the same situation. I mean, a lot of people will admire UEFA for what they've done. It's not just anti-FIFA in terms of the decision they're making here. They're probably thinking this is best for the game. But as I say, what we should really know is what is the deal on it before we realise and we can actually judge if it's poor for the game, if it's going to be totally against what we want, or whether there's something in it in terms of the finance that's going to come into football in general across the world.
Gordon, thanks very much
for
joining us. Really appreciate it. Let's hear it very quickly from the former FA Chief Executive, Mark Palios. He was on breakfast yesterday and said he never saw anything like this during his tenure.
This was a game changer in the sense of the size of the figures. I think, let's just roll it back. I mean, Sepp Blatter came in at a time when football got the benefit of television monies and so forth and so on. So all of a sudden, you had a massive money coming into FIFA. And so, some of these smaller federations are run by people who are, suddenly they're getting cash from FIFA. They're able to do things like build stadiums, build training grounds, etc. They become a big person in their society. And they're all saying, great, well done, Sepp. And so Sepp Blatter was pretty much in the same position and relied on the votes from, the smaller federations. We at the FA had one vote, and so did all the smaller federations. And so as a consequence, we couldn't really influence that much. And Sepp Blatter always did the maths. Infantino's done exactly the same thing here, except the figures are bigger.
Mark Palios there reacting to this proposal from FIFA to sell off parts of its competitions to private stakeholders.
Can you imagine if social media wasn't around? This would probably get voted through, wouldn't it? Because, if you look at the impact of social media with the Super League and with this and whatever, the old days we'd be relying on newspapers every day or every weekend to read. And there wouldn't be the furore there is now. And this probably would be going through.
Yeah, and credit to Martin Ziegler as well. Brilliant operator.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Lid on
you don't want him going through your bins, do you?
You certainly don't. We're going to be speaking to former Chief Operating Officer of the African Confederation next, because they could yet have a big say on where this vote goes. First off, though, let's get an update from the Commonwealth Games, shall we? He is covering this for us throughout the competition. John Cushing joins us now.
And you've just joined us at the Scotstoun Stadium as Mel Woods has won her gold medal that she lost yesterday on appeal, had to come back and run the 1500 metres T54 wheelchair race this morning, and she's won the gold medal again. She's just held off Naomi Alphonse of Mauritius, who was one of the countries that appealed that result that Scotland and England had won gold and silver in a race where there was a crash in the early stages of the 1500 metres the other night. They've come back this morning, and Mel Woods, the 31-year-old Scottish athlete, is the Commonwealth champion. That is for definite now. Well, I say as definite as ever be. There's always appeals, you never know in athletics. Maybe VAR will come and bite us again. But Mel Woods has come out this morning and won this 1500 metres gold medal that she won 2 days ago. And now she is Commonwealth champion once again. And Scotland start with a gold medal here on day 8 of the Games. What a start for them. She's back in just 90 minutes competing in her other event, the 400 metres. It's been crazy here, but that is a Games record of 3:32.20 for Mel Woods of Scotland. Naomi Alphonse of Mauritius getting the silver with a season's best, and Australia's Alcono getting the bronze. So unfortunately, Ellis Cottas, who won that silver 2 days ago for England, misses out on a medal this time. That will be a disappointment for her. Lots of happening across the day here in athletics. We've got boxing, we've got cycling, and we've got judo starting as well. We'll keep you up to date. It's the Commonwealth Games live on the talkSPORT network.
Great stuff, John. Sounds like we joined him at the perfect moment there. Going to talk Newcastle later in the programme. It's our understanding the players have now been told that Eddie Howe and his coaching staff have left the football club, but still no official statement. And Bruno Guimaraes, we were under the impression that he would be reporting for pre-season training today. Newcastle telling us the plan was always to have him training by Monday, but sources close to Guimaraes have suggested he's asked for time off to try and complete this transfer to Arsenal. All sounds like a little bit of a Alexander Isak style saga, doesn't it?
You're the insider. Give us the scoop. Is he going? Is he staying?
I think he'll go to Arsenal.
You think so?
I'm pretty sure on that.
Contacts are telling you.
They are. Yeah. Just thought they told me Eddie Howe was frustrated.
Of course.
Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony live on talkSPORT.
John is a Newcastle fan, joins us now. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, very well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
John, hold on. John, are you John, Jack Charlton's son, John?
Yes, I am, yes.
Oh, John, what a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much for that.
Thanks very much.
Are you good? Are you well?
I'm very well, very well.
Good.
Can't complain at all.
It's quite ironic that you phoned up. You know what the date is today, right? July the 30th?
Yes, I do.
60 years ago today, your dad won the World Cup with England.
Yes, and funny enough, me and Eddie were talking about his medal.
Yeah.
I think there's only him and my Uncle Bobby who have kept their medals. Everybody else doesn't have them anymore.
Where's your dad's medal?
I've got it.
Have you?
Mm.
Oh, my
Yeah, I do.
goodness.
Well, there's a bit of a problem with it, actually. When I say I've got it, it was left to me in my dad's will.
Yeah.
But the taxman wants £200,000 off me in inheritance tax.
Oh, you're not going to sell it, are you?
No, I've had to give it back. I've given it back to my mother.
Right.
Because while she's got it, I don't have to pay that money.
How has he come up with that figure? I mean, this is a conversation for another day, sorry, but how on earth has a taxman come up with 200 grand inheritance tax for a World Cup medal?
I've no idea.
That's
There's
disgusting.
a journalist from the Daily Mirror who's been working on it and helping us to try and sort it out.
talkSPORT News.
Good morning, it's Emma Kerwin with your headlines. Almost 50,000 migrants have crossed the Spanish border from Morocco in the past 24 hours. Military have been sent to the tiny territory of Ceuta to boost security. Most of them swam. At least 18 people have died. Mayors in England won't be able to set up tax rebate schemes under the government's new devolution plans. That's what we've been told after the Prime Minister confirmed the leaders can keep some cash from income taxes and business rates collected in their area. First Secretary of State Louisa Hay says the aim is to improve transport, house building and create jobs.
Allowing strategic authorities, which currently have mayors but not all need to retain their income tax and their business rates. And that, in today's announcement, will replace the funding that they get from central government.
Hamas says it won't implement the terms of a deal to dispose of its weapons until Israel agrees to withdraw its troops from Gaza. This after Donald Trump claimed his border peace had reached an historic agreement between both sides as part of a 20-point peace plan for the territory. And a British Special Forces veteran is among 10 climbers missing after an avalanche in northern Pakistan. Niral Purja was leading the group. 2 deaths have been confirmed.
talkSPORT Sports Headlines with Bostik. For professional grade sealants with easy application and a perfect finish, pros trust Bostik.
FIFA vows to plough on, and Newcastle have been formally informed this morning that Eddie Howe is leaving. Amelia's back at 11.
Crook and Darragh McAnthony with you all the way through until 1 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to be talking to the former Newcastle manager Steve Bruce in just a few minutes following Eddie Howe's decision to step down at St James's Park. But this Friday morning doesn't get any better for Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president. We're just hearing his senior advisor has quit in protest at the move by FIFA to sell off stakes in the World Cup and said it would be bad for football. The resignation of one Carlos Cordeiro is a damning blow to Infantino's ability to stay in power after we also revealed yesterday he was rapidly losing support in world football. Darragh, your immediate reaction to that?
Yeah, rats off a sinking ship is not what they say, whatever else. It's just been a disaster for him. And he definitely, obviously, maybe this is who knows, that guy could be the person who leaked everything to Ziegler. I'm just putting two and two together, right? I mean, somebody in the inside.
You do like to know where journalists get their stories
from,
don't you?
Obviously, we know you make yours up, but no, I think the reality here is that this person obviously seen it as a perfect opportunity, and I'm sure we're going to see him in the press now talking quite a lot and making a few quid for himself. So, look, the whole thing is just like it's spoiled milk. That's where it's going. So we're going to have to move on quickly, aren't we?
Abiola Ijasim is the former Chief Operating Officer of the Confederation of African Football and the founder of African Sports Investor, where she specialises governance, investment and the commercial development of African sport. She joins us on the line now. Abby, very good morning to you. We haven't heard yet how the African federations have reacted to this proposal from Gianni Infantino. What do you read into that?
Yeah, I've heard that they are. Good morning, by the way. So the ExCo for CAF are going to be meeting sometime next week. So I will be very surprised if we heard anything before they've actually had their deliberations, etc. But they've been asked to consider the proposal very carefully, all of the 54 members.
We were talking earlier about how the money might filter down, and Darragh's view is that a lot of the smaller nations in world football maybe would welcome that extra investment. Do you think the structure of the proposal has been set up in such a way that those nations who need the money the most will have the most scrutiny on them?
It's really interesting because I think to begin with, I think it's almost an unfair proposition. There's an asymmetry as to, those that need the money the most are going to be the ones that are kind of the flailing voters, so to speak, or sometimes the deciding voters in all of this. But there's no question that money is really key, and investment is really key to African football and the development of it. And while I totally understand where UEFA and its member associations are coming from, I think Africa has really got to consider this carefully. The time it's been given to consider is not really sufficient.
Yeah, they're kind of like forcing everyone to do it very quickly. And, that kind of desperation obviously reeks. So, Abby, let me ask you a question. If you were a betting lady right now, what way do you think they're going to come down vote-wise in Africa in regards to this?
Listen, if I was a president in one of these confederations, I'd be looking for investment right now. My thing is, I think that very much, and this is how we work, doing it or getting the investment in this way isn't necessarily the only way of providing investment for the national leagues.
Yeah,
it's a way. But without the fact that, say there's been no due diligence, and I've sat there and I've put governance systems in place in various federations across the continent. Governance is key. I think anybody that knows when it comes to investment, it's only going to compound what already exists.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you don't have the structures in place at the moment, it's going to be really challenging when that money does come. Who knows what the conditionalities are that are going to be attached to the investment? I think, that would be another issue that needs to be looked at. But I just don't think there's enough time for them really to consider this proposal properly and fairly.
And the proposal that's getting put out there, is the devil in the detail? Is there enough detail in the proposal, or is it just a quick summary? Because that's what I'd love to know. Is it like a 200-page document? Does it talk about the exact numbers? Does it talk about ownership, stakes, equity, all the relevant detail? Or is it just, this is a summary, and by the way, you're going to get 25 million quid sent to you, by the end of the year. Please sign here,
Well, look, the numbers are big, and the numbers are what's talking to the confederation. So as to how much detail is in there is challenging to know. Everybody's a bit reluctant to talk about that at the moment. But the numbers are really, regardless of what the details is, it's the numbers that, federations are looking at and thinking, infrastructure, how do we develop? What does that look like? So, regardless of what the detail looks like, I'm not sure that that's going to be, going through the fine print at the moment is really where everybody's head's at. That's where their head should be at, of course. But, dangling 20 million per confederation, or 40, depending on whether you get your vote in on time, is going to be a really challenging one. But I just feel like I say, there's not only one way. The investment, first of all, national leagues, top tier leagues, grassroots, that's where the investment's got to go. And, on a daily basis, I'm speaking with investors for the work that we do, and everybody has one eye on Africa already. So it's not like, investment is not the attraction of investment is not being pointed in that direction. It's more about how ready they are from a structural perspective in order to accept that investment. If they were ready, it might be a different conversation. But that investability piece is key. It's really, really key.
We got a statement now, actually, from Carlos Cordero, Gianni Infantino's senior advisor. He says, as a senior advisor to the FIFA president, a former banker, and a lifelong football fan, I cannot stand by while FIFA considers selling a stake in the World Cup. Let me be clear, I had no involvement in this proposal and I oppose it unequivocally. It's a bad deal for FIFA's member associations, a bad deal for football, and a bad deal for the long-term future of the game.
Is he placing himself as a replacement? Basically like UEFA gone to him and gone, listen, you get yourself out of there and we'll get you back in as a replacement. Is that what he's doing
You're
here?
such a cynic. I
am a cynic because he just said that he's a close confidant. He was like number 2, all of this. And I just, oh my God, the bureaucracy. Wow.
Abby, your reaction to that statement?
Again, I feel the due diligence hasn't been done. There's not enough time. It seems to have taken everybody by surprise. But, investment per se is not a bad thing. It's got to be considered. Perhaps it should have been approached in a very different way.
Abby, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
Much
Abby.
Appreciated. That is Abby Ijasami, the former Chief Operating Officer of the African Confederation. We yet to hear their reaction to these proposals, but as I say, the big breaking news is that Gianni Infantino's right-hand man has quit in protest against the proposals. Arsene Wenger's silence is notable. Is he looking for Infantino's job, says one texter?
That's a great point. I mean, we've seen some of his mad cat ideas the last few years now. He wanted to change in football, the professor. So that will be interesting. Mind you, he's getting on there in years, isn't he? I mean, I think what you almost need is you need like a breath of fresh air, going into FIFA. You need somebody, obviously, of, I don't want to be an ageist, but age relevant for the next 20 years, to take it forward. So, like I said, if he's going to leave, the next one's got to be spot on.
Okay, well, I think we covered that FIFA story in enough detail. We're going to move on to talking Newcastle next on the day that the players have been informed of Eddie Howe's departure. We know that Yaisla is coming in, Matthias Yaisla, manager of Saudi Pro League side Al Ali, to replace him. Steve Bruce, who was the man that Eddie Howe replaced at St James's Park, joins us in the next part of the programme to give us his reaction to what's been a seismic 24 hours in the North East.
Thomas Tuchel, what he said, he's a key player for us, whether as a starter or as a substitute. The word substitute will even be uttered around Virgil van Dijk. Imagine someone saying that to Virgil van Dijk, even at 40.
No, I think
be a substitute.
No. You're massively cherry picking.
I'm not saying. No. Sorry, they just played the clip. No. They just played the package, and it was Thomas Tuchel, the England manager, saying he's a key player for us, whether as a starter or a substitute.
This is appalling from you. This is the very definition. You know when Donald Trump's moaning about fake news? It's you.
Sorry, I just basically quoted
but how
what
important,
the England manager said.
Okay. How important is context? The reason that he spoke like that is because he was accused of taking an injured player to a tournament. So the reason that he said he's going to be a key player for us, whether he's a substitute or whether he's a starter, is because it was suggested that you shouldn't take a player who has had an injury-ravaged season.
Oh, no.
So therefore,
injury-ravaged career.
Injury-ravaged career, fine. The reason that he was talking about being a substitute...
I feel bad here because you're about to make me bury John Stones, and I don't want to. I think John Stones is a fantastic human being, fantastic defender.
You're not going to bury him.
Maybe England's greatest defender... Maybe it's 50, 60 years.
He's England's greatest defender since Bobby Moore. Of course he is. He's England's greatest defender. If you look at what he's done on an...
big statement.
Hang on, can we just talk about John's
statement?
Addy.
No,
there's a moral victory for me in this debate already.
You're saying, look what...
talking internet there. Darragh educated me on how to get better broadband.
Wasn't difficult.
Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony. It says in for White and Jordan, but actually it's normally Sam Matterface and Gabby Bonlahor alongside me on a Friday. So, yeah, get that right, please, producer.
The boys not work Fridays, Simon and
No. We call it Fun Boy Friday. Well, Sam does anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but not quite so much fun with you, but we're doing our best.
Very funny.
2 become 3 now because Steve Bruce, former Newcastle manager, joins us on the line. Steve, how you doing?
Good morning. How are you, lads? You okay?
All right, Brucey.
We're good. We're good.
Okay, yeah. How are you, Darragh? You okay?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. Are you retired, or are you in the Neil Warnock retired camp?
Well, I've said that many times, haven't I? You know, I've said that many times, but I think so. But
more importantly, Brucey, tell me about your boy. How do you think he's going to get on?
Well, listen, he's been itching for a go. I think they were a little bit harshly treated at Salford. I have to say that. You know, they got to a playoff final, and unfortunately, you know, the manager's lost his job, and Alex went with him. So, you know, but he's been given an opportunity where, you know, he's jumping at it. So, yeah, I wish him well.
Wish him the best from me.
Oh, absolutely. Of course I will, yeah. It's going to be a difficult job. They've had a difficult couple of years, but they're a smashing club, so it gives him an opportunity. And
good owner.
I'm sure he'll give it his best shot, that's for sure.
Steve, on the subject of managers, big breaking news yesterday morning. Eddie Howe deciding to step down at your old club, Newcastle. 5 years he was there, obviously led them away from relegation danger, twice qualified for the Champions League, won the League Cup final, beating Liverpool Wembley, having been runners-up the year before. Were you surprised by the timing of this announcement just before pre-season really got underway?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're all shocked at sometimes the timing of it. It was the timing of it more than anything, you know. But I have to say, he's done a magnificent job, and a lot of Newcastle fans, and I can still say I'm one of them, you know, will be totally disappointed. A little bit disappointment, a little bit disillusioned of really what's happening. And really, it started a year ago, didn't it, where, you know, the Isaac situation wasn't great for the football club at all, was it? And, you know, Newcastle made this pledge that, you know, by 2030 they're going to try and win the Premier League. And unfortunately, you know, it looks as if they've got to go down a different route. It doesn't look as if it's the same club as it was maybe 2-3 years ago. And the one thing you can't be doing is keep selling your best players. We all know that, you know, unfortunately it happens, but, you know, to lose, and it looks as if Guimaraes may be going to Arsenal as well, doesn't it? So, you know, it's a difficult time for the manager where he keeps losing his best players, and you're going to replace them with younger ones. We can all understand the situation, but it's very, very difficult, you know, when the landscape's changed so much.
I just wonder if he had enough protection from those above him as well, Eddie Howe, because he was getting a bit of stick from a section of Newcastle fans because the league season didn't end well. They finished 12th. They finished below Sunderland, which, as you know, Steve, is a cardinal sin in that part of the world. But
yeah, of course.
And then, as you say, they're selling their best players. Anthony Gordon's gone. Tonali's gone. We expect Guimaraes to go. And then you've got the chief executive, David Hopkinson, coming out with that frankly ridiculous statement they can challenge for the title in 5 years. How do you challenge for the title when you're selling all your best players? Does that not just give the fans unrealistic expectations?
Well, yeah, there it goes. I mean, look, they might have this problem with financial fair play, and probably Anthony knows more than I do, but it seems a difficult one for clubs like Newcastle and Aston Villa who want to progress and want to compete with the big boys. It seems as if they can't because of the financial restrictions on them, and that's not quite healthy. That's another debate, I have to say. But look, I think he's done a magnificent job. I mean, he'll probably take a break, I would have thought, Eddie, and any of the big jobs coming along, he's going to be in the frame for them. He's been a magnificent manager at Bournemouth. You know, it didn't quite happen for him at Burnley, but he's done fantastically well. And 5 years in the hot seat in Newcastle is a tough gig, believe me. So, I hope that it was all mutual in the end. Nobody knows really what the story is, Crookie, because, we're all guessing and speculating, aren't we? And then, of course, there's going to be different press reports of what's happened and this, that and the other. But as I said at the top of the interview there, I think there'll be a lot of disappointed Newcastle fans. Yes, there was a bit of disgruntlement. Look, they've set high standards over the last 2-3 years, and to finish 12th of what they've been achieving before that, obviously wasn't good enough for them.
Where do you stand in the camp over Tuchel during the World Cup and Eddie Howe replacing him?
Well, look, I mean, listen. As far as I'm concerned, to be managing our national team, I think you should be English. That's my personal opinion on it. We've got some really, really talented managers around. Listen, Tuchel is a fantastic manager as well. Don't get me on it, but he made a big call. And these are the ones where managers, where your substitutions, what you do, and in them situations like we were in. But let's not forget as well, Darragh, we were 5 minutes away from a World Cup final. Cool. So give him a bit of slack, but he did make a big call, didn't he? Where we're all scratching our heads with it, and he has to live with that decision. But as a replacement, is Eddie going to replace him down the line? Who knows what football brings there anymore?
Yeah, fair comment.
I think the initial plan is that he'll take a break. He took quite a long sabbatical, didn't he, after he left Bournemouth, before he took that job at Newcastle. I think he is someone, well, I know he's someone who puts his heart and soul into whatever job he's in.
All in.
First one into the training ground, last one out. So I think mentally he's going to need a break now as much as physically. In terms of the replacement, Matthias Jaisler, coming in from Al Ahly, had a good reputation when he was managing in Germany, but it's a tough job, isn't it, when you talk about the departures? Obviously, the business plan this summer seems to be to invest in young, up-and-coming players, Steve. The Premier League can be quite unforgiving. How do you see Newcastle doing now without Eddie Howe this season?
Well, it's going to be difficult for the new manager coming in, and that tells me with the timing of everything what's happened that maybe it's been going on for a few weeks. Maybe I read a report yesterday that that you wanted to go 2-3 weeks ago, and they said, "Can you stay until we get a replacement found?" So whether that's true is that we're all speculating. Look, on his CV, he's been good in Germany with Leipzig, I believe, and what he's done in Saudi Arabia, he's done well. Oh, I wish him well. He's one of these forward-thinking young coaches, but it's a big football club with big demands on you when you're the manager. And I remember me taking it when I was speaking to Kenny Dalglish and Graham Souness, and they're all reiterating what a difficult job it is, and it always will continue to be that great job. Don't get me wrong, and I wish the lad the best of luck. He's certainly going to need it.
Yeah, no, I think the owners need him to get off to a good start, because if this starts badly at the start of the new season, what those fans are like, Steve. They could very quickly turn.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, they're like any other, and they're really, really passionate about their football club. That's for sure. There's nobody more passionate than they are of what happens at the football club. So they'll certainly make their voices known. That's for sure. But I hope to give the new one a chance. Of course, he's got big boots to fill. And of course, it is difficult times. I mean, look, we all can understand the model. You sell your best players and try and fill them with young, up-and-coming ones. We can all get it, but it's very, very difficult to sustain a position at the top end of the Premier League when you go down that route.
And on the subject of departures, Lewis Hall, heavily linked with Manchester United as well. Obviously, you've got a foot in both camps there, but would that be a good signing for Michael Carrick?
Wow, I've never heard that one just yet. He's now an outstanding young player, isn't he? Who's done really well, developed in Newcastle, and that's why you have to say as well. The recruitment in Newcastle, especially when they replaced myself. The Trippiers of this world, the Dan Burns, the goalkeeper Pope. They bought well for that special moment, what needed to keep them in the division. And then they've obviously grown, and they've bought Livramento and Hall and Guimaraes. I mean, look, Guimaraes, is a great signing for Newcastle, but when you haven't let your young ones go like Elliot Anderson, you do. That was alarm bells for me of why they're selling two of their younger players. The kid who went to Minte, who went to Brighton. Yeah, the writing was on the wall there to say that's a bit strange. But as I said, this financial fair play and these finances are what these clubs have to do now, and the rules to obey by them. You would love to hear the story, wouldn't you? And come out and say, well, we've got to do this route because X, Y, and Z.
Steve, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your summer. I think you're with us, aren't you, at Hull, first day of the season, Hull against Manchester United?
Hull, Man United. Yeah, bring it on. Fantastic.
Great stuff.
Brucey.
Steve Bruce there. Always a pleasure to have him on the programme. A couple of messages coming in. When you say selling best players, both Gordon and Tonali were average last season. Bruno was exceptional, so I would keep him. But 80 million for a 29-year-old is hard to turn down. That's Mark, the Newcastle fan. John says, wondering how informed Harvey Barnes was over this Eddie Howe thing. Would he have signed a new contract? He signed one this week.
Yeah, but listen, he's probably, his agent's clever. Losing all these good players, I'm sure he got weighed in nicely to sign a new deal so they could have some good news coming out. More importantly, though, Lewis Hall, Man United, I mean, I'd love him at Liverpool. He's a prospect, isn't he? I thought he should have gone to the World Cup.
100% should have gone to the World Cup. Another decision.
You'd be happy with that?
Thomas Tuchel got wrong. Yeah, because Luke Shaw, when he's fit, he's a decent player. He's not going to play every minute of every game, is he? Particularly with Champions League football.
No. You look at the finances, I'd say Shaw's wages compared to what you get Hall on.
Absolutely.
And he's, 10 years younger or 8 years younger?
Yeah, I think that would be a good signing. And, we'll be keeping tabs on that. We're going to talk transfers, actually.
Perfect.
In the next part of the programme, including the latest on Bruno Guimaraes. You want to have a bit of a pop at Curtis Jones as well after his antics in Liverpool's latest friendly. You're listening to Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
King Edward I, long live the King, gave us the best day that every fan, I'm sure they'll ever remember as a black and white supporter. But he should have gone after Fulham at the last game of the season. And I think the leadership have just let this one get out of control a little bit. They should have took ownership of that after Fulham at the last game of the season.
What was it after that game, mate? What was it at the end of last season that you saw that you wanted him to move on?
Well, it was before Fulham, lads. So unfortunately, it was after them lot beat us for the second time at St James's.
Yeah.
Now, at full time, for the first time in his regime, a section of the fans turned on him, and I was shell shocked. Just stood there listening, and I just left the ground just with my mouth shut and obviously devastated. But since that match, and I could be wrong, some of the fans might come on and disagree with me, but there was a turn of feeling and chemistry inside the ground.
Okay.
But for the ownership and the chief exec to sit there and say by 2030 we want to win the league, they haven't been ruthless enough at the end of the season to make that change.
Fair comment.
Did they say that before or after that Sunderland game? Because
Talk Sport.
A very good morning. You're listening to talkSPORT. With your sports headlines, I'm Amelia Beltrao. Gianni Infantino's senior advisor, Carlos Cordero, has quit over FIFA's private investment plans. In a statement, he stresses he has no involvement in this proposal and opposes it unequivocally. It says FIFA's vowing to plough on with it, despite UEFA's threat to boycott the World Cup. Former chief executive of the Scottish FA, Gordon Smith, isn't surprised by the Confederation's hardline response.
When I was at the SFA and I was dealing a lot with UEFA and FIFA, there was no cohesion between them. They didn't really get on that well, UEFA and FIFA, so I can understand now why quickly UEFA have gone right against this.
Footballing legend Franco Baresi has died at the age of 66. AC Milan says their former captain's integrity will forever be in the club's DNA. The defender won 3 European Cups and was a Serie A champion 6 times with the Italian Giants. Italian football expert Daniele Fisichella says he was the archetype of a club legend.
He lost his dad when he was 14 years old, only to found a new family, which was the family of AC Milan that took him on, and that's where he stayed ever since. Even after retiring, after 1997, he worked for the club.
Bruno Guimaraes has asked Newcastle to delay his pre-season travel plans as he finalises his move to Arsenal. It says talkSPORT understands the squad was formally informed this morning that Eddie Howe's leaving. Gabby Bonlahor reckons Howe was getting fed up.
I've lost Tonali, Gordon and Guimaraes is going. The players that are coming in are youngsters, not proven. I could have an embarrassing season here at Newcastle. Affects me as a manager going forward, my CV. Why would you stay in the job?
We understand German Matthias Jaisler is taking over. And Antonio Silva is having his Bournemouth medical this weekend as he leaves his childhood club Benfica. It's a deal worth over £21 million.
talkSPORT News.
Nearly 50,000 migrants have crossed into the Spanish enclave from Morocco in 24 hours. And regional mayors in England have been told they won't be able to give their residents tax rebates. More with Emma at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. For a limited time only, get 20% off a set of 4 selected premium tyres in our big summer sale. Visit quickfit.com and book today. Conditions apply.
Showers in the north with some isolated thunderstorms in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Dry and sunny elsewhere.
How quick did that first hour go, debating FIFA and then a bit of Newcastle with Steve Bruce as well. We're going to stay on the subject of Newcastle, actually, because we want to round up some of the latest transfer stories, including Bruno Guimaraes and his future. Does it lie away from St James's Park? Well, speaking of sources yesterday, certainly Arsenal appeared to be the direction of travel, even though Newcastle maintain they've not yet received a formal offer from the Gunners. The expectation was that Bruno Guimaraes would return for pre-season training after an extended post-World Cup holiday. Today, on the 31st of July, they're jetting out for their pre-season tour this weekend. He's now not reporting back until Sunday. Now, Newcastle say the plan was always that he wouldn't rejoin training until next Monday, and he remains on course to do that. But again, speaking of people close to the player, they're suggesting to talkSPORT that actually he's asked for an extra couple of days off in the hope this transfer can be finalised.
Yeah, there's no point in him going on camp. I mean, you've got a new manager. The last thing you want is a player that's going to be gone in 10 days, 2 weeks. It's just going to be a distraction. And it already is a distraction because we're talking about it every day in the press. He's going to Arsenal and move on.
I think Newcastle are a bit frustrated that a lot of this seems to be being driven in the media as opposed to Arsenal actually picking up the phone and going.
Which can happen. Which can happen in football. It's always bizarre. So if I were Newcastle, I would pick up the phone and say, look, you've got 5 days to do this deal, or we're keeping him, and we're sending him out to camp. This is where you play the takeaway game with all parties. You tell Arsenal, you tell the agent, and tell the player, there's a time limit on it. If a deal's not done by this time, he's staying with us, he's under contract, and he's going to Spain.
I think it's Kia Cherabchin who's negotiating the deal.
Gosh, good luck, okay.
But yeah, like you, I expect him to end up at Arsenal, and interesting to see how Newcastle reinvest.
Yeah, it's all about that now, isn't it? I guess you got to draw a line in the sand and you got to go, look, that's enough selling. We're not selling Lewis Hall. We're not selling any more players. I'd be very surprised if they did that, by the way.
Yeah.
So now we're going to spend. Now we're going to start going the other way and rebuilding this squad for a new manager and giving that new manager the type of players that might work within the way he plays.
John Stones is now officially a Inter Milan player. He signed his 2-year contract. We thought maybe there was interest in the Premier League from Chelsea and Arsenal, but is this a good move for John Stones at this stage of his career? Maybe a less physically demanding league?
Yeah, because I guess the argument with John Stones will always be about him, physically and medically, and not playing 45 games on average a year like, Virgil van Dijk does every year for Liverpool. Personally gutted he's left the Premier League. I still think he's got a lot to offer. Great signing for Inter Milan, and £4 million a year. Does that not sound like a bargain? Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me. So I'm pretty sure Arsenal, even Liverpool, would have offered more than that. But I don't know. Maybe he fancied going abroad. Good for his family. And a couple of years abroad is good for every world-class player.
And you noticed that on social media, Curtis Jones liked the posts where Inter Milan announced Stones as a player.
He's acting like a spoiled brat. I saw his behaviour last night on the pitch.
This was after the friendly.
Yeah, I understand the frustration that you should have got the armband. He's been, he's a scouser. He's been there 20 years. Blah 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 blah. But to act like that and for it to carry on, because it went on for about 2 minutes.
Was it him and Dominic Szoboszlai?
Yeah, he was having a go at Szoboszlai, who handed the armband over, I think, to Tsimikas, and I believe Curtis Jones had the temper tantrum over that. It's just like that behaviour can't happen. Not from a graduate from the academy. He's too into himself. So if he wants to go,
source of his frustration not so much the captain's armband in a pre-season friendly, it's the fact he wants to leave, is it?
Yeah, okay, so he wants to leave. Well, okay, now Liverpool have to get the best deal for the football club. That's how it works, okay? You don't get to throw your toys out of the pram and do it slowly, knowing him, and then act like that. I just don't understand it. You're playing for one of the biggest football clubs in the world. You came through the system. Behave. Stop. That's all eyes are on you. That's not behind closed doors. That might go on in training and all those things, but you don't want to see that going on actually for millions of people to watch.
It's not great for Andoni Iraola, fresh in the manager's.
No, and I'm sure he'll move past that. And I think Szoboszlai was asked in the press conference, and he didn't even talk about it. But it's just you hate seeing stuff like that. I really do. I think it's so petulant. Do you know what I mean? So, and then when you're liking Inter Milan's post, okay, we get it. You want to go to Inter Milan, probably last 5 minutes out there.
Staying with Liverpool, there are some reports that they have now made a formal offer worth £100 million for Bradley Barcola. I reported a couple of days ago that Barcola wanted to make the move to Anfield, but you've not been too inspired by this possibility.
No, I'm with Jamie Carragher in the camp that I saw him the other day talking about it. We have 3-4 left wingers already, players who can play there. We need to fill the void by Salah. Frimpong was meant to help with that, but we know he's got medical injury issues last year and not quite what we like to see out wide right when he did play. We need a right winger. It's concerning. And we're going out and we're getting another pacey player who plays on the left majority of the time. So unless Rio's going to get put on the right, square pegs, round holes, all that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't love it because of the money. If he was 60, 70 million, and I get it, he's not. Yeah. You think, okay, it's a no-brainer. Then you maybe sell Gakpo and you clear up some space on the left and you still go get a right winger. But Liverpool right now are playing with one centre-back and the other centre-back on one leg. So, they've got issues. McAllister's going to come back. He was a shadow of himself last year. They need some help in central midfield. Potentially need a right-back because really we haven't got a right-back. Frimpong's obviously going to play in
Joe
there.
Gomez is now going to miss the start of the season.
Yeah, that's Joe Gomez. God bless him. Could have been a world-class defender, but obviously injuries have stopped that. So Liverpool have got a lot of holes to fill. So, and you got to start a right wing to fill Mo Salah's, departure. So it does concern me that we're going down this rabbit hole where we might end up paying, I don't know, like the Weirts money. You overpay, and then does the player adapt to the Premier League, and is it another bad signing? And it's frustrating for me. But who am I to judge?
Will come good though. I mean, there were signs.
There were not enough signs for me for the money spent on him. Okay. Not enough signs for me. I know everyone gets excited about him and he creates this many chances and does this, does whatever else. I want a player for that kind of money scoring 20 goals and creating 20 goals. Yeah. And I don't think he's ever going to get to that level. I hope I'm wrong.
I obviously hope you continue to falter, so yeah.
Listen, you had your year off last year from Europe, yeah?
Did the double. Did the double at Liverpool.
Listen, you did, and you deserve to as well. So, of course, every Liverpool fan would worry about the re-emergence of United again, so... Let's see.
On the subject of United, what did you make of Marcus Rashford writing on social media a goodbye message to Barcelona? So it looks like that chapter in his career is firmly closed now.
Yeah, look, United have got a lot of good people behind the scenes, and they now feel they've obviously got a good manager, coach in set up. They've had a successful season, by recent standards, would have qualified for the Champions League comfortably. They now have to handle the whole Rashford situation, and I'm sure it's not one they wanted to. And would have preferred Barcelona to have taken the option up. But we said it last week, Tottenham might be a great move for him. And Tottenham seems to be really spending the dough. So that could be one there, a deal to be done. But you both don't think he's going to hang around Man United this season, is he?
No, I think it's best for all concerns if he does move on.
What do United need this summer?
Well, still need more legs in midfield.
Right.
I think Yuri Tillemans is a good signing, but not the most mobile. Yeah. Obviously, Andre Santos coming in as well. They're looking at Kone, Camavinga, potentially Belieber. I think is still in their thinking as well. They do need a new left back, as I've alluded to, because I'm sure can't play every game. Although Harry Mass has done all right in pre-season so far.
Yep.
But Lewis Hall, I think, is very much a target. And probably another forward player. I was of the opinion they should have been part of the conversation when it came to Danny Welbeck.
Right.
Maybe taking him back to Old
Right,
Trafford.
just to help.
Yeah, because Joshua Zirkzee, I mean, he scored a worldie in pre-season last week, but I'm just not sure he's quite there when it comes to the Premier League.
But they've kind of like the last couple of windows, they're starting to turn in the right direction, right, with the signings they've made.
And they've targeted Premier League proven players.
Yeah, with a mix and a match with some young talent coming in as well.
Yeah.
So they're getting the right balance.
It could be a big season for him, and we sort of say this at the start of every season. Mason Mount, if he can stay fit.
Yeah,
as a player there.
It's so disappointing because England as well have obviously not had the benefit, and he's just one of those players as he's gone on, he hasn't kicked on yet, has he? Is he playing pre-season for them? Is he fully fit?
Yeah.
Can he stay fit for a whole season?
That's the problem, isn't it? Because his last year at Chelsea was pretty injury ravaged, and it's been the same case since he took that iconic number 7 jersey at Manchester United. John has texted any transfer news regarding Everton. Jack Grealish has been left out of Manchester City's pre-season tour as he recovers from injury. I wrote about this in my notebook, I think last week. There's a bit of interest from Saudi clubs, maybe Al Hilal.
It's too early for that, isn't it?
I think Everton would like to take him back. The trouble is, he's in the last year of his contract, so a loan deal doesn't really work for.
No, City will want to get 30, 35 mil from him, so they get some money back to benefit. What is Jack, 30 now?
I think he's 29.
He's 29. Way too early for Jack to go to Saudi. Look, I love
What's
Jack,
happened to him? Because since they won the treble,
I love
he started 12 Premier League games. For City.
I don't know. I love Jack Grealish, and you look at England this summer. You'd have loved to have Jack Grealish as an option. Do you know what I mean? In some of those games, and at 29, I think he did really well for Everton before the injury. If Jack Grealish has got the hunger and desire, he could be as good as anyone in the Premier League. It's really down to that. So maybe Everton's a great platform for him to finish his career in the Premier League, and then he can go take the Saudi dough.
Everton, one of the clubs, as I'm told, interested in Liam Delap as well. Obviously, Welbeck coming in. Delap expected to leave.
And they're about to lose that fella to Saudi, aren't they? Ndai, is that how you pronounce his name?
Looks that way. If not to Saudi, there's still interest.
I like him as a player.
Yeah. Delap to Everton under David Moyes. Could that be a good fit?
He's had some good moves, hasn't he? And he just hasn't quite cracked the code. I see it. I see the profile. I see the size of him, everything. But he needs to get double digits in the Premier League now. He needs to start showing, doesn't he? I know he's, 22, 23? But for me, that could be a very good signing for Everton, yes.
This is an interesting one. Borussia Dortmund and AC Milan both interested in Ethan Nwaneri at Arsenal. Young player, burst onto the scene, was loaned out to Marseille.
Had a nightmare there,
didn't really work out for him there.
Germany next.
Hard to see where he fits into this Arsenal team.
Don't think he gets into the Arsenal squad, never mind the team. So they've got so much talent in those areas, and young players coming through as well. So if I were Arsenal, I suppose they need him to have a good loan so they can cash in on him, right? And get like maximum transfer value. Because that's the next evolution for Arsenal. It's doing what Liverpool did, where they were getting serious money for some of the academy players they sold. And I guess Arsenal would complain they haven't done enough of that.
And last one, Real Madrid still pursuing Rodri. Manchester City looking to replace him potentially
50 million.
with Ayoub Boadi from Lille.
Yeah, I think Boadi's the long-term one. I don't think Man City are going to let Rodri go for 50 million, do you?
It seems cheap.
Not a chance.
Especially based on the back of his World Cup. But he's only got a year left on his contract.
Yeah, I am surprised that's happened. That he's been, with a year left. So I think the compromise there is 70? Good figure. Real Madrid, they want him. Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for any player, particularly if you're a Spanish international,
of course,
to stand down Real Madrid. But watching him at the World Cup, he got player of the tournament. Surely Enzo Maresca must be thinking, I need this guy in my team.
Probably, but obviously they've made signings, as we know, with Anderson, and obviously you're talking about the boy they're trying to bring in and potentially loan out. I think I believe I heard after spending a big amount of money on him. I think he goes home. I do.
Yeah.
I think he goes home, and I think the worst part about it is it's taken him a year to recover from the ACL, and he's back to his best. So the City fans aren't going to see that version potentially if he goes to Madrid.
Yeah, and that was a big factor in them not winning the league last year.
I like what Mourinho's putting together at Madrid. Yeah. It's interesting. It's going to be really interesting at Real Madrid this year.
Yeah, certainly will be. Don't forget, keep up to date with all the latest transfer news, talksport.com. You won't miss any of the breaking stories. We've also got a daily window show on YouTube. I'll be filming that right after I finish here at 1 o'clock. Let's get a Commonwealth Games update now, though. John Cushing, what's been happening?
Well, Mel Woods is the Commonwealth champion again. The 31-year-old from Scotland won the rerun of the T54 wheelchair final after athletics judges ordered it take place again after a crash on Wednesday night. Woods, who's back in the 400 metres heats in the next hour, told me the whole process was poor and thinks there's a lot of grey areas in the rules in parasport. New silver medalist Naomi Alphonse of Mauritius, though, whose chair actually broke in the original crash, said it was a fair decision to race again. And new bronze medalist Eliza Donald Connell from Australia agreed. England's young racer Ellis Cottis, who was at her first Commonwealth Games, was disappointed to finish in 4th. She had been a silver medalist, of course, yesterday morning. Elsewhere on the track here at the Scotstoun Stadium, Jazz Sawyers is through to the final of the women's long jump, a leap of 6.80 this morning, but Nia Robinson of Jamaica, who was a challenger, has failed to reach the final. No jumps at all, no jumps in 3 attempts, so she is out and won't be in the final. Well, over at the track cycling at the Velodrome, Emma Finucane of Wales, who is the world champion, of course Olympic champion, qualified fastest in the women's individual sprint. Sophie Capewell and Rihanna Paris-Smith of England also qualifying fastest. Reigning Olympic champion New Zealand's Elise Andrews down in 9th so far, but there's a long way to go before the gold medals are given out tonight. This is the Commonwealth Games on talkSPORT right across the network.
Cheers, John. We'll be checking in with John again before we leave you at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Coming up next, though, I want to get Darragh's take on the offer that the Premier League are making to the EFL in terms of additional funding. And we'll be asking, could Amanda Staveley be making a return to football at West Ham? You're listening to Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony, the Peterborough chairman, on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
Absolutely devastated.
Go on.
If it was down to me, Eddie Howe would have been the manager for the next 10 years. I think he's been let down by the owners, the board. You've only got to look at the way the club's being run. I mean, how many directors of football, different people coming in, like, above him. His hands are tied. Like, I don't blame him. Like, I respect him for walking. 2 weeks ago, we missed out on a target, and we said about other targets. 2 weeks later, we still haven't signed anybody. We're signing young kids. We're losing our best players. Isaac told the club that he wanted to leave after the cup final. Now, if a player doesn't want to play for you, get rid of him. They had the opportunity to get rid of him. We had a deal agreed, Ekitike to Newcastle, personal terms agreed, medical booked in, fee agreed, in Newcastle. Hummed and hawed out selling Isaac. As soon as he wanted to know, they should have said, we've got a replacement, sell him, Ekitike signs for Newcastle. They messed about. Liverpool ended up signing Ekitike, and then the new Isaac was going to go as well, so the player would line up to replace him. We lost them both. And then we ended up panicking last couple of days of the window, and we're saying 2 lads that wouldn't get a game from me on a Sunday morning. And that comes from the club, the board. Like, why are you messing around? Like, you had the situation. They dragged their heels, tried to show, like, we're not going to be pushed around by a player. They got embarrassed. And then the manager's got to front up every single week in press conferences, talking what's happening. He doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't even know who his director of football is. What about 10 in 3 seasons? It's an absolute joke.
Alex Crook for Sam Matterface on this Friday afternoon. Darragh McAnthony, the Peterborough owner and chairman, alongside me as well. We are here until Ollie Klink takes over at 1 o'clock. We've got live racing from glorious Goodwood. Once again, I'll be back there tomorrow, enjoying a bit of hospitality, glass of champagne or two overlooking the Sussex Downs.
They must have seen the sloth walk into the box area.
Outrageous.
Honestly.
Should we talk about this proposal from the Premier League to filter more money down to the EFL? No figure has been put on this deal yet, although it's rumoured to be around about 1.5.
Where's that rumour come from? Their side? Or?
But the Premier League confirmed its 20 clubs have unanimously voted to approve that proposal for what they call a new strategic partnership, which will be put to the EFL for its members to vote on in the next few days. You've mentioned already you're on the EFL board now.
I am.
Can you give us a...
No, I just say, look, there's a lot of obviously positive press in the Premier League's way because they've come out and done this anonymously, but let's just...
It's been a long time coming, isn't it?
Well, there's no deal.
Right.
You know, at the moment, nothing is in front of us, I believe, and I can't really talk about the detail. It has been a long time coming. It's the right thing to do. Forget about what figures you see out there, because like I said, those talks haven't taken place on any offer put to us yet. And it's something the Premier League had to do. And the regulator plays a big part in that.
I was going to ask you about
that. But they all know the reason they're unanimous on it is because they don't want someone else making the decision on the figure.
Yeah.
That's why they're unanimous on, let's get this done.
Yeah.
But look, here's the thing. Both parties want to break bread, do it in the right way, do what's right for the football family that we keep calling it, and make it fairer. Because right now, for a long time, it hasn't been.
Yeah.
And again, this is not me criticising the Premier League, because I think that's the wrong tack to take. We're all in the same industry, and we just want a little bit more of a fair share. And the EFL have got some great operators at the top that will be having those discussions when the offer comes in, and we'll take it from there. But as of today, someone said earlier to me, "Oh, congrats, this deal's signed." I'm like, no. It's just, all the press headlines, all of that. No.
Actually, the statement from the EFL yesterday said they look forward to receiving the proposal in full.
Exactly.
Obviously hasn't happened.
Exactly, because everything's just out there in the ether and maybe verbal. We need to see a proposal. That's going to take, studying. Then there will obviously be counter discussions. That's just normal how negotiations work. But we've got some good people at the top, and I'm sure we'll get to a place where we're all happy.
It was also interesting that the statement that I saw from the EFL referenced the independent regulator directly. So is this the first sign of the regulator using its powers? Because Simon Jordan has been very convinced that we didn't need a regulator. It's going to be bad for the game. Do you have a different opinion on that?
If I was probably like Simon at the start, and we've had a lot of discussions with the regulator as clubs as well, and the people that work for the regulator, and I was a bit concerned because I've owned a club for 20 years and done things the right way, and if a regulator came in and made all these rules impossible for me, I might have to sell my club. And you're forcing out maybe good owners, and so that was a concern. But I do think if a deal gets done with the Premier League, the regulator can take, some credit in that, great credit in that it was probably on their to-do list to bring some fairness back to the game, and I do think that will help. So if a deal gets done, very positive and pro-regulator.
And how quickly could this deal get done? How quickly are you going to see the money, do you think?
Well, put that to the side. I don't think, if you'd asked me this 2 years ago, I'd have said this will drag on. And lawyers will be involved in their end because people want it to drag on without writing checks. I think this will happen this season.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. I'm very positive that, as long as there's common sense on their part, and when it comes to the negotiations and the devil's in the detail, I think it would happen, this season. I think it needs to, because otherwise then the regulator, there will be stronger involvement, and then they won't get to choose a figure. So I think both parties need to come to a figure that they can both live with.
And this is obviously an opening gambit, so can we expect the EFL might come back and push for a bit more money?
I can't.
Happens in these negotiations?
I can't talk about that in the details. All I'll say is that, if people think this money is going to go to wages and transfers, that's not what this is about. This is about making our game more sustainable. The average football club in League One loses £6 million a year. That's just not real.
Are you surprised with that we don't see more clubs go to the wall?
There's a lot of money in football from ownership. There's a lot of people that then end up buying clubs. I am surprised there haven't been more. I've always said this. And you don't want them to be more.
Because Bury were probably the last one, weren't
they? Well, there's a few clubs that went into admin and had issues and were taken over. So rarely does a club go to the wall, because there's always someone willing to stand in and take over and rescue it. And Simon Jordan give his own experience in that. If a club's a decent size and a decent location, it's not going to go to the wall. Someone's going to come in and do a deal. So, but this game and our industry can't lose that kind of money every year. It's frightening.
It really is.
It's frightening.
Let's talk about someone looking to get back involved in football. Amanda Staveley, of course, who oversaw the PIF takeover at Newcastle. She's part of a consortium that have held talks about purchasing a 25% stake in West Ham. This was Amanda Staveley speaking to the media a few weeks ago.
Our focus was very much on buying businesses that we could develop. We've looked at a lot of clubs, including Tottenham, but we are looking at clubs around the Premier League and the UK, Europe, and we're hoping, and we really want to be buying, going in and investing into a club again very soon. There's some amazing clubs. Maybe, you don't know. There are amazing clubs around that. I think both my husband and I were attracted to building a business where we can take a brand that isn't doing so well, a club that isn't performing well, get it on the right road and bring that forward.
Amanda Staveley, can you see that happening at West Ham? I know that David Sullivan has driven quite a hard bargain with Daniel Kretinsky, who's been trying to buy more shares, the Czech minority owner.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's Sullivan's expertise, is driving a hard bargain. Look, she's got the taste for football. She obviously loved being in it at Newcastle. I saw the documentary and makes money. Her and her husband obviously are not doing this just to have fun. They're doing it to make a few quid. They probably made a few quid out of the Newcastle deal and had an absolute amazing ride. So they're going to take that and apply that and they're using other people's money as well as their own. So there's never that big risk. When you're an owner and you're using other people's money, it's great. You know what I mean? But when it's your own money, it's a lot more stressful. So I would say West Ham fans would probably welcome her, who's based on they had a little successful period at Newcastle. I can't say anything negative about her. I know people would like, you know what I mean, to have a go at her and whatever else, but she did everything she said she was going to do at Newcastle, didn't she?
Yeah.
And exited and left them with very wealthy owners. So if she does that with West Ham, I'm sure they'd be delighted about it.
And staying with the topic of people investing in championship clubs, Turkey Al Sheikh,
seen this,
close to finalising a major cash injection into Derby County, the championship club, just seeking final approval from the football regulator. The EFL have already completed its checks and regulations. This is good for Derby.
Yeah, I can't really comment on it because obviously I know a lot of the details. So, I think anyone coming in...
diplomatic Darragh McAnthony.
No, I look, I have a responsibility now.
A little bit of power at the
No,
end.
no power. No. I represent all League One clubs on the board for the EFL, so I speak for all the other clubs and I have to do things right. And it would be easy for me to go, oh yeah, I know this and I know that, and I'm going to share it with all the viewers and the listeners. I can't do that.
No.
So I've got to grow up.
Well, thanks for coming anyway.
Yeah, but I will say this. Derby County is a monsters club. And it's one of them clubs when they got in trouble under the previous owner that you thought when they were in League One with us, I always knew that's a club going back to the Premier League.
Yeah.
And it's primed. So anyone investing, any big billionaire investing in football is going to look at Derby, Sheffield Wednesday, those big clubs that should be in the Premier League.
Darragh McAnthony, Peterborough chairman, with us on this Friday morning. We'll be talking betting in the next part of the programme. Dan Towse returns from his summer holidays. We're going to get stuck into relegation odds ahead of the start of the new Premier League season. And, of course, take a look at day 4 at Glorious Goodwood.
Liverpool are set to place an opening bid for Bradley Barcola, but what PSG want and what Liverpool are willing to offer at the moment seems quite far away.
Yeah, there's a goal for valuation, but that's normal. PSG's starting position is £145 million. And my information is that in terms of the fixed fee, Liverpool are looking at roughly 80 million, maybe some add-ons on top. But that's the starting point. And knowing this is going to be a difficult negotiation because of PSG's starting position and the fact that they haven't signed Yan Diomande, Liverpool might need to be patient. And my expectation is it might run a similar course to Alexander Isak. And by that, I don't mean the player will agitate and go on strike. But what I do mean is with Alexander Isak, Liverpool placed what they thought was a fair offer early. When it was rejected, they waited until right towards the end of the window and the deal got done in the final hours. And you may note that Newcastle went from not for sale to 125 million, and somewhere in the middle, they were asking for 150 million about 3 weeks before the deal got done. So PSG's starting position, 145, very normal in deals for that to come down by 20 to 25 million. If Liverpool are prepared to go up by 10 or 15 million. Suddenly, the parties are not that far apart. So the first bid likely testing the water, and then we'll understand whether PSG are grandstanding or they genuinely believe that they can get over £20 million more than the deal that saw Morgan Rogers leave Aston Villa for Chelsea at 117 million.
talkSPORT News.
Good morning, it's Emma Kerwin with your headlines. And we're starting with some breaking news this hour. Southport killer Axel Rudiger-Barner has been charged with 4 offences while in prison, including 3 assaults on staff at Belmarsh. The offences are alleged to have taken place over 6 months last year. Rudiger-Barner is serving 52 years for murdering 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class. Earlier this month, he was moved to a secure psychiatric hospital. Spain says almost 50,000 migrants from Morocco have crossed into its enclave in North Africa in the last 24 hours. Many of them swam, with 18 dying. It comes weeks after Spain's Supreme Court ruled anyone stopped at sea trying to get there can't be sent back to Morocco. Regional mayors in England have been told they won't be able to give their residents tax rebates. Ministers say the share of income tax and business rates they're soon going to get needs to be spent on public services.
It's not in their gift to set income tax or business rates. So we would anticipate that the money would be invested into public services and into growth schemes that benefit the community as a whole.
That's the First Secretary of State, Louisa Hay. A grass fire has broken out in Essex as crews say one in Suffolk has stabilised. An area equivalent to more than 200 football pitches is burnt in Dunwich Heath since Wednesday. Fire crews have said it's stabilising there. And Sainsbury's is selling Argos for £120 million. No job losses or store closures are expected.
talkSPORT Sports Headlines with Bostik. For workable, easy-to-apply mortar that tools easily, pros trust Bostik.
Gianni Infantino's senior advisor has quit over FIFA's private investment plans. And Bruno Guimaraes has asked Newcastle to delay his pre-season travel plans. Toby's got more at midday.
Past 11 on this Friday morning, sunny one in London. Hope it's good weather wherever you are listening and watching. Myself, Alex Crook, and Darragh McAnthony, the Peterborough United chairman and owner, had a text asking for any Coventry transfer news. That Carl Rushworth deal, I think, is still to be finalised, but £22.5 million Coventry have agreed to pay Brighton for someone a lot of people think could be an England number 1 in the future.
Without a doubt, he was phenomenal last year, so I would say that's the going rate now of... Trafford's gone for 40 million and whatever else. The young English goalies aren't cheap, are they?
No, and you'd have thought maybe those two might be vying for a place.
You'd like to think so. You got to move past Pickford eventually, haven't you? So yeah.
Okay, time to catch up now on the latest odds. All thanks to BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+. Gambleaware.org.
And delighted to say we're joined by the only man who's had a longer summer holiday than Jim and Simon, Dan Towse. How are we doing, Dan?
Morning, gents. I haven't actually been away yet, Crookie. I know you've spent a lot of time off, but I've yet to have my summer holiday.
I feel like I've not spoken to you for weeks. Actually,
I know. Well,
you did call me, didn't you? Where were you? You were in Magaluf or somewhere.
Oh, yeah, just outside Magaluf. Yeah, it was the Mrs. Portier. So we went out for a night there, and I won't be going back, that's for sure.
Shall we start by taking a look at the odds for relegation from this year's Premier League? I'd imagine the 3 newly promoted sides are filling the top of the betting there. I think Hull are doing some good business. I'm a little bit biased because I like the owner, but I think they'll stay up.
The relegation, three promoted clubs are the three odds-on favourites to go back down to the Championship. The trend was slightly bucked last year when obviously Burnley were the only victims of the relegation race. But Sunderland are the fourth favourites to go down at 5-2. Crystal Palace and Fulham both 11-2 apiece. Starting to look at teams' performances in domestic league during the Europa and Conference League participation. Whilst there's a number of variables of injuries, etc., over half the teams who have qualified for these competitions over the last few years have finished in a lower league position than the season before. In fact, I think worst case scenario was in 2001, 2002. I think it was Ipswich who played in what was the UEFA Cup at the time, and they were relegated despite finishing fifth the league before. Likes of Crystal Palace and Sunderland don't have huge squads, and with the extra games, travel, more Sunday games, plus the domestic cup competitions, it does put a little bit of a strain on the fixture list. And I just wonder, despite the market suggesting the three which will come up will go back down, I know you mentioned Hull, do you see anyone else being sucked into it?
For me, no. I look at Ipswich, and obviously new manager Gary O'Neill, see how he gets on. You'd obviously Hull. I know you're close to the owner and you'd like to be the de facto director of football behind the scenes. I look at those teams and go, where's the goals coming from? Where's the goals in the Premier League going to come from? Because goals keep you in that league. I think Coventry have got more firepower. I do. I look at their young strikers, I look at their wingers, and I go, if I was to look at those three teams in a vacuum, Coventry could outscore and score more goals. I wouldn't say Fulham's going to struggle, but the question mark is over this manager.
Yeah, and it looks like he's prioritising bringing players in from Spain as well.
Yeah, so the settling in period, it's I think Silva was a big loss for Fulham, and I'm not really Aribola fan yet of what he did at Real Madrid, so I'm not sure on that one. I don't see, you mentioned Palace there, I don't see Palace, I know they have a new manager, I don't see them in a firefight. It's difficult to pick a third one. Crookie, if you were to put your life on it, who would you pick?
I do fear a little bit for Fulham with a new manager.
Do you worry about Sunderland second season syndrome?
Maybe, and they've got European football as well to contend with, so that could be an issue. We know that Newcastle are your second team pretty much, Dan. You've been spotted in Newcastle jerseys and scarves. Obviously, losing Eddie Howe is a blow. I'm not saying they're going to be relegation contenders, but I certainly don't see them challenging for Europe. What are the odds telling us about Newcastle at the moment?
Yeah, so we looked at that as well. And pre the news yesterday, the club were 40-1 to win the Premier League, which is big enough, but they're now 150. But looking at the other end, as we're talking about relegation, they were 20-1 before the news broke yesterday, and they're now 12. So if we all believe the manager appears to be close to signing, or who's already signed, but it's not been announced yet, Liverpool and Spurs are the Magpies' first two fixtures after Bournemouth comes to St James's Park. So it could have been an easier start for the new guy when he walks to the door. But I thought his first job would have to be to try and keep the club captain in Bruno Guimaraes. But as you said about 20 minutes ago, you think he's already be on his way to Arsenal. I think the relegation battle, I think it's going to be fascinating this season because I think so many teams could be dragged into it. I don't disagree with the market at the moment in terms of the three promoted sides, but I just think with Europe, some of the teams with new managers, second season syndrome, as you mentioned about Sunderland, I think it could be quite interesting in that relegation battle for the Premier League next year.
How are Brighton going to replace Danny Welbeck as well? Because a lot of Brighton fans not happy that he's being allowed to join Chelsea. And you are obviously a Seagull supporter.
I am a Seagull supporter. I mean, I think like a lot of people, I was amazed when it came up, but I totally don't envy the guy for getting a 2-year contract and possibly earning some more money. You can't knock him for that. We do lack a little bit of strikers. Evan Ferguson's back. Hopefully, after his loan spell, we might see a different player.
Didn't go very well though, did it for him at Roma?
It didn't. It's a bit like you were talking about Mason Mount. I'm convinced there's a player in there, Crookie, and there was some rumours. We all love social media about Liam Delap possibly coming down to the South Coast. I think he lacks a lot of confidence at the moment. Whether he's right in terms of a replacement, if you put it in inverted commas, for Danny Welbeck, I'm not sure, but I'm a little bit nervous about where our goals are going to come from next year.
Let's move on to racing. I've come to work today to take a day off from glorious Goodwood. I've come for a rest, but I'm going to be back there tomorrow. But it is day 4. I'm having a brilliant week. I'd imagine the bookies are not having quite such a good week with all those favourites.
I mean, you say you're having a good week. I mean, I've seen you interviewed by racing channels, tipping winners left, right and centre. You're even commentating on races now for talkSPORT. I don't even know into your talents, Brookie.
Freeloading.
Yeah, exactly. No, it hasn't been a great week for the bookies, but still 2 days left. Diamond Necklace was good yesterday. She justified a 8-13 price. But on today, 3:35 King George Stakes over 5 furlongs. James Doyle ridden Knight Raid was 11-4 favourite. disappointed at Ascot and King Charles, but prior to that, he did have wins at Haydock and Newmarket and obviously has a real chance. But I'm going for a horse that I tipped up last year, Crookie, and it was last year's winner in JM Jungle. 8-1, comes off the back of a third place finish at York last time out. And at the price, I think is a decent each way bet.
Great form at Goodwood as well. I've got 4 that I've picked out today. And I think I had 3 winners yesterday. It was my worst day so far. Valiancy in the first. Again, James Doyle on that one. Talk of New York is really short, but I think that'll win. And then I really like the 2 in the last 2 races, Into the Light and Silver Lake. What do you reckon? There's a 4-time.
Well, judging by the way your week's going, I wouldn't rule it out, to be honest with you. But I'll tell you, Darragh, this just sums up Crookie. He texted me yesterday saying, I've got one for you in the 225. I went, great. He didn't bother texting me back.
I can't remember if it won.
He was on his 5th drink.
So it's nice of you to give me a couple of tips. I'll have a look at them, Crookie.
Good man. Dan, thanks for taking time out from your busy summer to come and join us. You're looking very tan, by the way.
You've seen the weather down in Brighton. I can't get away from the sun.
There you go. Always appreciate Dan Taus. That was a look at the latest odds. All thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+. GambleAware.org.
We've got a couple of minutes, Darragh, before the next break, so I want to get your views on this very quickly. A Brazilian footballer has been handed an unusual punishment for seriously injuring an opponent. Defender Victor Gabriel was sent off for his challenge on Gabriel Peck during last week's game between Cruzeiro and Internacional. Peck, who was making his debut for Cruzeiro, fractured his left tibia. Brazil's sports court said Gabriel deserved a harsher sanction and banned him for as long as it takes for Peck to recover. That's a maximum of 6 months.
Oh, wow. Is that real by regulations and rules? That's allowed?
I mean, listen, anything goes now, doesn't it, after the Balogun situation?
Yeah. Did Trump ring them or something? What's going on? I mean, that's mad, that is.
Would you welcome that type of punishment in English football?
No, I think you start going down, it's a slippery slope, because accidents can happen and whatever else, and then you're never going to have a tackle in the game again, are you? I mean, you're going to have football without tackling. If players think they're going to be out for a year and maybe not getting paid or whatever else, they're not going to lay a glove on anyone, so I think that's the end of our game if we start going down that route.
And should courts really be getting involved?
No chance. No chance whatsoever. So, look, maybe it was a savage tackle. I get all of that. Fine, you get 6-match ban, you get a month's wages, whatever. But until the player comes back, I mean, seriously, come on.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in your camp on that one. Just coming up for 20 to 12 on this Friday afternoon, Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan. In the next part of the programme, we'll be paying tribute to the late, great Franco Baresi.
This is probably one that Darragh would be more interested in because it concerns his beloved Liverpool.
Don't sign him. Don't sign him.
You don't want him?
No, not for that kind of money, no. We need a central offender. We need another midfielder. Yes, we need a winger. They spent 100-odd million on him. They're not going to do any more. And we need a right back. I just think, I look at his figures and I look at where he is and whatever else. No, I'm not having it. Not having it. Nope. No.
Wow. See, I think he'd be a great addition to the Premier League. But in terms of the figures, obviously PSG were touting over the weekend. They wanted 145 million. I think the opening bid from Liverpool is going to be a lot less than that, maybe nearer the 80 to 100 million pound mark with add-ons. Will that be enough to persuade them to do business? Who knows? But Barker isn't signing a new contract as it stands, so PSG not necessarily in a strong position.
Why do you think he'll be a serious asset in the Premier League? Tell me what he can do in the Premier League. I've looked at all his data. I've seen his Champions League data. I've seen in France. Someone even put up a comparison with Cody Gakpo, and I'm not his biggest fan. Gakpo was pretty much ahead of him in a lot of the data. World Cup goals, Champions League goals, and I'm not no comparison, but you've just made a statement there that you want to see him in the Premier League and whatever. Why?
I think he's a top player. I think he's been a top player for France. He's part of a PSG team that won the Champions League 2 seasons in a row. And I think we need that bit of stardust in the Premier League. We've lost, obviously, Mo Salah. You'd have been sad to see him go. It doesn't look like Vinicius Junior is going to end up on these shores. Jan Diamonde was wanted by Liverpool at one stage, but he's going to Real Madrid. So I just think it'd be good for the league to sign a player who's won back-to-back Champions Leagues.
Fair comment. You're listening to Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony live here on talkSPORT. Now, yesterday we lost a true great of the game. The former Italy and Milan defender Franco Baresi sadly passed away at the age of 66. The Italian football fans, Milan fans and fans around the world in mourning. Delighted to say James Richardson, legendary former host of Channel 4's Football Italia, joins us now. James, first of all, how did you react when you heard the sad news yesterday?
I was just shocked, really. It was such a surprise. Thanks very much for having me on. I think Baresi is just one of those figures who, to some extent or other, we all grew up with, and just was such an icon of the sport, such an example of the ideal of what it was to be a defender, that the idea of him having actual kind of mortality was a bit incongruous. I mean, he'd been ill for a while and recently had been quite frail, but yeah, a real shock.
Yeah, you look at his CV, 6 Serie A titles, 3 European Cups and a World Cup, despite the fact he was only 5'9", which obviously is relatively short for a central defender. He was voted Milan's player of the century and had his number 6 shirt retired. How have the Milan fans been reacting?
Well, I think it's something that highlights, not just for Milan fans, but the difference between how the Italian game was and names from the past always acquire a legendary status, but there's no doubt there was an incredible generation or series of generations that made the Italian game the most respected in the world. And his passing kind of highlights maybe the way that era has passed. But, you know, you mentioned him being the Milan player of the century. Think of the players that they had in that century. It's extraordinary. And this guy, never given the Ballon d'Or because the defender, sure, but he was just extraordinary. He was a rock. Everything was built on. 5'9". Inter, actually, his brother played for Inter, and he was turned down by the Nerazzurri because he was too short, and that worked well. So he goes to Milan, where he becomes just this bandera, this legend of the club. And for Italy as well. I mean, an extraordinary player. I was fortunate enough to meet him on a couple of occasions when he was playing, and then some years afterwards when he was just kind of being a genial, that kind of off-field genial side of him was the way that he was living. But on the field, an absolute machine, extraordinary player. I mean, I don't think people who played against him would have a better idea, but he never felt. He was always physical and he was always exacting, but he never felt like a dark arts kind of player. So many, of course, both in Italy and elsewhere were, but he was just sensationally quick in the mind and incredibly, almost like a magical ability to know what was going to happen next. Yeah, he was something. And in the brief occasions that I met him, a real gentleman too.
They're not going to make centre halves 5'9" like that anymore at that world class level, are they? That's the most disappointing thing. What a player!
But it's interesting, James. You said there. I obviously never met him, but he always came across as a gentleman, someone who conducted himself brilliantly on and off the pitch.
Yeah, and he. Not everything in his life went easily for him. There were various kind of personal travails which he faced, and quite often received quite a lot of abuse actually from you know how fans can be. I mean, this was certainly something that used to happen and still does in Italy, where people will pick on something and attempt to disrupt a player by chanting stuff. He suffered a lot of chants in his time for various kind of private reasons, but I never saw him come out with any kind of statement, any kind of. He was impeccable. He was always composed. That's the thing. And off the field, certainly, I can't think of him ever having a extravaganza, doing something, a bit out, out of what was seen as respectable professional behavior. But on the field as well, just sensational. I mean, the thing was, we were spoiled in those days. We almost thought it was normal to have people like him, Maldini, and to an extent Costacurta, although I think Costacurta was kind of along for the ride. But him and Maldini in the same team. Maldini, who never got booked, was always able to be there. Sometimes didn't even need to make the tackle because he'd already, read it so well. And Baresi there at the same time. So we almost thought it was normal. But those players, those men, it's something pretty extraordinary. We don't get that every day, unfortunately.
And because of your programme, I think we all felt like the likes of Maldini, who you mentioned there, and obviously Baresi himself, were part of our childhood, because obviously we saw it every weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why it is such a shock to lose him now. Although he hadn't been part of our lives in that kind of regular fashion for a long time.
No, absolutely. I say part of my childhood. You're a bit older, Darragh, than me, I think, aren't you?
That's very funny. I remember watching those shows, Van Basten. I mean, that Milan team. You know what I mean? Like, gee, my goodness, iconic.
Yeah, and our thoughts go out to all of Franco Baresi's friends and families and former teammates as well, of course. Let's talk about some of the big football stories in Italy at the moment, James, if we can. Roberto Mancini returning as national team manager. This has been a little bit of a saga, hasn't it, with Andrea Pirlo not given the job, seemingly due to ties to a Russian betting company.
Well, yes, and I think that's probably for the best. With the greatest respect to Pirlo as a player and a ghost-written biography creator, he hasn't had the greatest of success as a manager, and there was a little bit of the Gattusos about the notion that they could get in another of the great Italy players and that would work out as a manager. Something to do with DNA and that. Mancini pulled off one of the great national team managerial feats, certainly up there with Lippi's 2006 World Cup, I would suggest, which came on the back of that enormous betting scandal not betting scandal, the Calciopoli scandal of Juventus. Mancini managing to get an Italy team that cannot get within a whiff of the World Cup to the final at Wembley and then winning the European Championships was an absolutely extraordinary thing. He then blotted his copybook rather by ditching the national side for what he thought was going to be heaps of Saudi gold. Whether he ever received it, I have no idea, but he's returned a little bit with his tail between his legs, and let's hope it works out. I mean, from my point of view, I hope it works out. I'd love to see the Azzurri doing well again. They do have an expression about reheated soup in Italy, and it's not a positive one. So we'll see.
Well, they've been in the doldrums, haven't they, really, since that European Championship final, Italy. So how much work has he got to do, Mancini? Are there a new generation of superstars coming through?
That's the thing. There are players coming through. But when you do get players coming through, they tend to be incredibly hyped by an Italian media that is desperate for some players to begin to reach the kind of stature of some of the players we mentioned before, Franco Baresi, Paolo Maldini, Demetrio Albertini, all these great players who were really the bedrock of they just seem to have football born into them, and we don't seem to have that anymore in Italian players. So how much work does he have to do? A lot. But at the same time, it's not really about the work that he's doing, because I don't think the players are there at the moment.
Yeah.
Given some of the players, some of the teams who have qualified for the World Cup of late, they do have enough talent to be able to do that with the right manager. And his track record suggests he will be the right manager. However, I would say that the standard of the squad that he will be inheriting now, or be able to select now, is actually worse than it was in 2020. When was it? 2020.
2021 in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah. 2021, yeah. when he pulled off that great Italian job at Wembley.
Yeah.
Or not great, depending on your point of view.
Is there an issue with academies in Italy? The fact that they're not producing the amount of talent, say, like a France are producing? What's going on over there?
It's the mothers. It's the mothers. The Italian mothers are not producing enough children. This has been spelled out by various visionary people who've been called on to explain why Italy's managed to miss out on qualifying for 3 World Cups. So if they could sort the mothers out, and in about 20 years' time, we might see another generation. There is an issue with the academies because of the amount of money that they cost to run and the cheapness of acquiring players from other markets. And that's undoubtedly been a big part of the issue. Some people point to the flood of foreign players, but you're not going to turn that around. But there's also a cultural change that's happened, which is, it's quite hard to sum up in a kind of an easy soundbite, but as in many other countries, the amount of kids who are going out and playing football just naturally in the streets or whatever in parks has decreased. But there was also a particular conduit of young players through the Sunday schools in Italy, the oratories, which produced any number. A lot of that great Milan generation actually came through, was schooled in the oratories. And there was a certain kind of football and also a certain attitude, maybe even a sportsmanship that players were kind of educated in those places. Those institutions have all but disappeared now over the last 30, 40 years. As society has changed, as there's not really been any call for them anymore. And that, I think, is one of the things that Italians certainly point to as being a kind of deep lying, but not so subtle cause of the change in the quality of players.
James, thanks very much for joining us. Always appreciate your time and particularly your tributes to the great Franco Baresi. Pete from Liverpool actually has texted in as well. He said, I'm saddened by the news of Franco Baresi's passing. What a stalwart of football and apparently a real gentleman. The word legend is overused very loosely to describe players who have retired or passed away. But for me, Franco was the epitome of a legend. Rest in peace. God bless. And I think we all echo those sentiments. Just come out for midday on this Friday afternoon.
Eddie Howe, we understand, is to leave his position as Newcastle manager after 5 years in charge at St James's Park. It looks like this is as much Eddie's decision as it is the club's. I know there's been frustrations in the transfer market with various potential deals falling through. Obviously, Anthony Gordon, Sandro Tonali, potentially Bruno Guimaraes leaving the club. And it looks like Eddie Howe has decided now is the right time for him to take a break. So Eddie Howe to leave Newcastle, we understand at talkSPORT, after 5 years in the job. Coming in to replace him potentially is the German Matthias Yassel, currently coaching over in the Saudi Pro League with Al Akli. So this could develop very quickly.
Yeah, thanks for that, Crookie. Let's stay there. We've got questions for you. I mean, this is absolutely huge for so many reasons. One is the fact that the start of the Premier League is only, 3 weeks away. Where does this leave Newcastle now?
Well, as I say, they're moving quickly. Just got a message from my colleague Ben Jacobs that Yassel will be the new manager. That deal is already agreed. So I guess a smooth transition in that regard, but it's not ideal, is it? Just a few weeks before they play Liverpool. I'll be there at St James's Park on that first Sunday of the season. And as I say, they need to get players through the door. I've mentioned those that have departed. The strategy this summer for Newcastle is that they're replacing those who leave with young, up-and-coming players from Europe. It's a gamble, I think, when you go down that road. And not only are they losing senior players, they're now losing the man who delivered their first domestic silver.
Talk Sport.
Good afternoon, I'm Toby Gillis. Gianni Infantino is under mounting pressure after his long-term advisor, Carlos Cordeiro, quit in protest at plans to sell off stakes in the World Cup. Cordeiro is a key figure within FIFA, but says he had no involvement in the plan and opposes it unequivocally. The former chairman of the FA, David Bernstein, thinks there are a number of options now, all of which result in the proposal collapsing.
FIFA will, in the end, will withdraw this proposal, which I think is probably likely, or it could be voted down within FIFA. Or, of course, there could be a no-confidence vote in Infantino now, because he really is bringing FIFA into disrepute.
This morning, FIFA released a statement committing to continuing with its consultation process, despite UEFA, CONCACAF and Asia's AFC all committing to voting it down. The Italian football legend and 1982 World Cup winner Franco Baresi has died at the age of 66. He won 3 European Cups and was a Serie A champion 6 times with AC Milan. The club says their former captain's integrity will be forever in the club's DNA. Bruno Guimaraes has asked Newcastle to delay his travel to pre-season training as he closes in on a move to Arsenal. But there are no plans for him to strike like his former teammate Alexander Isak. Newcastle's players, meanwhile, have formally been told of Eddie Howe's exit this morning. We expect Matthias Jaissler to take over. Here's the Daily Mail's chief football reporter Craig Hope on the German.
Certainly speaking to those inside the club when they've attempted to justify this appointment in the past 24 hours, they've highlighted his style of play, that want to be on the front foot.
In transfer news, Antonio Silva is having his Bournemouth medical this weekend. He's on his way from Benfica. And Cole Palmer is threatening to send the bailiffs round to his new Chelsea teammate Morgan Rogers' gaff if he uses that ice-cold celebration. He trademarked it, of course, last year, but it was actually the Blues' new winger who was the first of the pals to do it. There's loads more on the website, talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
The Southport killer, Axel Rudakabana, has been charged with 4 offences whilst in prison, and nearly 50,000 migrants have crossed into the Spanish enclave from Morocco in 24 hours. More with Emma at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. The big summer sale is now on, with great deals on a wide range of tyres. Visit quickfit.com and book today. Conditions apply.
Showers in the north with some isolated thunderstorms in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Dry and sunny in the south.
You're listening to Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony here on talkSPORT. We are into the final hour of the programme. Your energy level's still good?
Always.
Yeah.
At least, even at 50, I'm like a 25-year-old.
You had one fewer coffee than you normally do this morning?
Yeah, I had a lot yesterday.
Did you?
I had 11 of them. yeah. It was a long day.
Pre-season friendly tomorrow?
Yes, we play West Brom at home. Any of the talkSPORT fans want to come along and buy a ticket? Become a Peterborough fan.
I've still never been, by the way. I'm waiting to be invited as your guest.
You're not welcomed. All right? People of your ilk.
I'll wait until you're back in the Championship.
Honestly.
Incredibly, there is competitive football taking place in Scotland this weekend. It is only July the 31st, but yep, Scottish football returns. Dundee United against Rangers tonight, Falkirk against St Mirren, Aberdeen Hearts tomorrow, St Johnstone play Kilmarnock, and Hibernian host Motherwell on Sunday. And then on Monday, it's Celtic against Dundee FC. Bill Leckie, Scottish football journalist, joins us now. It does seem stupidly early, bearing in mind the World Cup's only finished a couple of weeks ago, that Scottish football is returning.
We are a fortnight into the season, Alex, because we had the League Cup started while the World Cup was still in the go, which I think is absolutely bizarre. However, here we are. The League Cup group sections have all been played, and now we're into the 4 league divisions all starting this weekend.
Amazing. And obviously it's been a busy summer at Rangers. Derek McInnes in as manager. Lawrence Shankland, who scored so many goals for Hearts as they agonisingly missed out on the title on the final day, has been recruited up front. Do you see them as best poised to challenge champion Celtic this season?
Absolutely. They've certainly strengthened. I think that Derek McInnes is very much an upgrade as manager. They've strengthened right down the middle. They've brought Pandur, the goalkeeper, in from Hull. They've brought in Ben Godfrey, who was at Everton and Norwich. They've brought in Cammy Devlin from Hearts in the middle of the park. They've got Shankland up front. So right down the middle of the park, they look stronger already. Shankland's been named as captain. I think Godfrey's a good signing. I think Pandur right now is an upgrade on Jack Butland. So yeah, I think they look immediately stronger.
And on the subject of Celtic, talkSPORT legend Alan Brazil was back on our airwaves last week, and it's safe to say he's a little bit concerned for the Scottish champions.
I'm astonished.
Get it, mate. I don't get it.
Do you know what? There was a time, Gabby, when Ipswich used to sell their players too cheap. You look at Terry Butcher costs and stuff like that. We had a I don't know what it was, but we had a problem getting the value that we should have got for players. Now it's Celtic's turn.
I don't get it, Al.
And Celtic, I dread to think what's happening at Celtic. Martin can't be sleeping at night because here we go again. You know, Celtic, in my opinion, were very fortunate to be champions last year.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into referees' decisions because each team, Hearts in particular, had some big results with referees as well.
I think you can understand his concerns, Bill, because obviously they lost Maeda to Ipswich. Looks like Engels could be on his way to West Ham as well. A number of bids have been put in by the Championship club. So how will Martin O'Neill be feeling about all this?
Well, he'll be feeling happy that they've spent 17 million on two strikers in the last couple of weeks. Camilo Duran, Colombian, and Kasper Hutt, who's come in from Bodo Glimt, who I think is an excellent striker. Yeah. I think he's a guy they tried to get in January. They couldn't get him over the line. They've upped the bid. They've paid club record £11 million for him. So they've got two guys in up front, which is what the fans were screaming for last season, was proper centre forwards. They might play the two of them together. I hope they do, because I think they could. I think it would really help them. I think Engels has been a letdown for the money they paid for him, and if they can double their money on him, I think they've done a great bit of business. If they get Carter Vickers back at centre half, if they get a fit Alistair Johnson at right back, I still think they need a goalkeeper. I think they need another centre half. And my big worry would be, because there's still been no absolute yes on this, is whether Callum McGregor, the captain, their inspiration, stays. Because there's a lot of talk about Brendan Rodgers trying to take him to Saudi. And Callum has said for a long time that he is happy to stay at Celtic. It's the only club he wants to be at if they match his ambitions. And I'm not entirely sure that, from what Alan Brazil's saying, from what a lot of Celtic fans are saying, that they believe the club matches the ambitions of the fans and of players like McGregor.
I mean, the amount of drama is incredible. You know, they've won 14 of the last 15 titles. Just broken a transfer record. And now again, you got Alan obviously on the other day and talking about panic. I mean, is this just normal up there? Is that what it is? People are bored? Are they bored with the winning? They just want to create drama?
Do you know, there's a part of that, Darragh, I think you're right, but you know what it's like.
They were lucky to win the league last year, though, Bill, weren't they? I mean,
they still won the league.
Should have won the league. I don't think there's been I don't think that any record books will say, put a star beside your name and say lucky, right? They won, they got more points than anybody else. It came to the end of the season. Hearts had a spell where they threw a lot of points away when they were miles ahead. I personally was hoping Hearts, like a lot of neutrals, was hoping Hearts would win that league. I say neutrals as in non-Rangers or Celtic.
Sure, good for business.
But they didn't. They on the last day of the season, and they lost 2 goals in the last couple of minutes. But if that was it, they had referees decisive against them. But Celtic won the league. Celtic won the cup. My team, St Mirren, stopped them doing the treble. We won the League Cup. They probably think they should have won the treble. They didn't. They won the double. Your worst season winning the double is better than your best season winning nothing. So I think, Darragh, to an extent, you're right. Up here, the way it goes with Rangers and Celtic, you're either first or you're absolutely nowhere. They never accept second as being not a bad season. That's the way they look at it. Rangers will get into the first game tonight at Dundee United. If they don't win it, Celtic will get in Monday night against Dundee, thinking that'll be us 2 points ahead. That's us on the way, and it'll be a disaster for Rangers. It'll be brilliant for City. Whatever way around they go, whoever plays first, whoever plays second. You think England put themselves under pressure to win the World Cup, with the whole 30, 59 million years of hurt thing. Rangers and Celtic blow that nonsense out the water. Every time they drop a point, every time they lose a goal, it's a disaster. And they need to really change the decaf,
question.
Bring it down a bit.
Are Rangers going to sell my boy Manny Fernandez, hopefully for 20-25 million? Or what's the story?
Were you on 15%, are you?
I'm not going to comment on that, but I'm just asking a question.
Okay.
Are they going
I'll take that as a yes.
Are they going to sell him?
Well, they've just brought in another centre half from America, South African boy. They've got Ben Godfrey, so I wouldn't be surprised if Rangers look to balance the books by selling Nico Raskin for definite, and I think Manny Fernandez would be one as well. I'm not convinced he is the kind of defender you need in the rough and tumble of Scottish football. I think he's a very good footballer, I think he might be better suited to another kind of league.
Okay. Do you think the previous manager will come in from?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think he's a very good footballer. I really do. I think he was found wanting defensively at times. I don't think people realise just the level of intensity there is in the Scottish Premiership. A lot of players came to Rangers last season under Russell Martin, and then stayed when Danny Rowe was there. And I think they thought it was going to be a bit of a cruise. And then they realised that you play Dundee, St Mirren, Motherwell, Dundee United, and people just batter you constantly. And some of them can't handle that. So I think a guy like Ben Godfrey is going to be asked to do a lot more graft than maybe boys like Fernandes were before.
Gotcha.
What former manager are you talking about there?
Danny Rowe.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, cause
he went to Red Bull, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He's got a few more quid than Russell Martin would have to try.
No, absolutely. Yeah, listen, absolutely. And by the way, Russell never played him. He played him for one game, and I don't think Russell particularly wanted him there. But he ended up being a
Fernandes
great
is
signing.
better than League One. Fernandes is a lot better than League One.
Listen, he was in Scottish Team of the Year last year. I know you were saying he's not a great defender or whatever else, but you don't get into that Team of the Year without doing well.
No, but you know what I mean, though, Dara. I think sometimes you need guys that stand up and defend.
I get it.
And Derek McInnes likes guys, he likes centre halves that play like centre halves.
Listen, sell him to Germany. Let's get it done.
Let's talk about Hearts, actually, because they were the bridesmaids last season. Obviously, there was a lot of fallout to some VAR decisions you've already mentioned. They've lost their manager. They've lost their star striker. How can they possibly try and emulate what they did last year with those two big departures?
Well, there's more than that. I mean, they lost the manager, who obviously takes his staff with him. Craig Gordon, who's been a legend, has retired, the goalkeeper. Craig Halkett, the centre-half, who's now the captain, has been out injured. Cammy Devlin, who was the rock in the middle of the park, is gone. Shanklin's gone. They've got a new manager who's done really well in Belgium, but who came in and his starting point was a 6-0 aggregate loss to Sturm Graz in the Champions League qualifiers. They now play Benfica in the Europa League qualifiers. It's not an easy start, and I think there's been too much change at Hearts in the summer for them to settle quickly. I'm going to see them tomorrow night at Aberdeen, 5:30 tomorrow night at Pittodrie, which is a big yardstick. Last season, Derek McInnes came in and his first game was at home to Aberdeen. He hit the ground running with a win, and it set them off really well. They desperately need to go to Pittodrie and show that they've got something to offer, because it could very quickly, you know how these things go, you have a great season and then second season kicks in and things change, and if you don't get started quickly, it can very quickly unravel. I hope it doesn't, because I think what Tony Bloom has done has been fantastic, and I'd like to think they are long-term candidates for trophies in Scotland, but this is a big proving ground the next few weeks.
Bill, always a pleasure to have you on the programme. Enjoy the first weekend
Thanks,
of the Scottish Premiership. Dundee United against Rangers kicks it off tonight. The game Bill's out tomorrow, Aberdeen against Hearts, and on Monday we see the champions Celtic as they play host to Dundee FC. I want to talk Tottenham in the next part of the programme. Roberto De Zerbi has hinted at another major incoming. You are listening to Alex Crook and Darragh McAnthony in for White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
Up and said you got 10 players better than John Stones.
No, but I said all time. I didn't say Prem, but let's stick to Prem. All right, let's do this.
Go on.
Virgil van Dijk, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Vincent Kompany.
Yeah, that's five.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we going Tony Adams?
Oh yeah.
No,
you're not gonna say.
No, but go on.
I
would.
Campbell.
I'd do Sol Campbell, defo.
And I'm a Tottenham
Sol
fan.
Campbell, come on, Jamie.
Keep going.
I'm going Sol Campbell.
Yeah.
Oh. Gary Pallister.
Carvalho.
Mate, come on.
Carvalho.
Don't help him. Why are you helping him? Carvalho's not better than John Stones.
Carvalho. Ricardo Carvalho.
Jamie, hear me
Give me a break, man.
On his day, prime to prime, one game for a final, Ledley King.
Yeah, Ledley King. What, you telling me Ledley King? Oh, come on, Jamie.
Listen, Jamie, not the career, but for one game in his prime.
I watched John Stones playing the Champions League final.
I know he was
City.
unbelievable.
He was unbelievable. So don't. Let's,
I hear it, but
like,
you know
come
what
on.
I think? Yeah? I heard
You can't
Rory
be putting
and
Ledley
Addy
King
earlier.
above John Stones. He's won
Phil
6 Premier League titles.
Phil Jagielka, mate. Phil Jagielka.
Holy shut up, mate. Come on.
I mean, mate, Jamie.
Jolyon Lescott.
I would go as far as to say if Jan Vertonghen and Alderweireld played in that City team, they might have won the same honours.
Gary Cahill.
They would have won the same honours.
He's on Gary Cahill level.
You just make.
We'll be joined by Terry Gibson, Spanish football expert, very shortly. A lot of big stories over in La Liga. But first of all, let's get the latest from the Commonwealth Games with John Cushing.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big night in the athletics team England, Alex, as well. That from Jazz Sawyers after she qualified for the long jump final tomorrow this morning with a season's best of 6.80. Now, the 2014 Commonwealth Games silver medalist is the team captain here at Glasgow 2026, and she was talking to me ahead of Georgia Hunter-Bell going for gold in the women's 800 metres. It is a world-class race tonight. She's the world silver medalist. You've got the world gold medalist Lillian Odera of Kenya in the race as well. You can hear it on talkSPORT 2 from 7 tonight. Now, England's mixed 4x4 team of Toby Harris, Poppy Malik, Ben Jeffries and Lavia Nielsen just won their heat here this morning and they're into the final tomorrow night, second fastest. Scotland's Mel Woods is a Commonwealth 1500 metre champion. That's guaranteed. She came back on the track 2 days after winning gold and had to win it again in the rerun. England's Ellis Cottis, who won silver on Wednesday, was fourth this time and told me she was disappointed. And across Glasgow at the Sir Chris Hoy Velodrome, the track cycling day 2, Emma Finucane of Wales and England's Sophie Capewell and Katie Marchant are through to the next rounds of the sprint with easy wins this morning. There are 7 gold medals available tonight in the women's individual pursuit. It's Anna Morris of Wales against Josie Knight of England for gold. There are still tickets available, glasgow2026.com if you want to come and see us over the weekend. This is the Commonwealth Games. It's live across the talkSPORT network.
Thanks very much, John. Let's bring in Terry Gibson, Spanish football expert. Terry, always good to speak to you. Lots of news stories over in Spain at the moment. Let's start with that Marcus Rashford farewell post to Barcelona. Looks like his hopes of return to the Camp Nou are now very much over.
Yes, it does, and I think it was a blow to him when Anthony Gordon. It must have been kind of awkward when the England team met up for the World Cup when Anthony Gordon had already completed his move to Barcelona. Marcus Rashford's future was hanging in the air, and then they signed Karim Adeyemi. So it's not going to happen now for Marcus Rashford. I have to be honest, I'm really surprised. I thought it was a good value in terms of the transfer fee, and I thought his form last season was as good as you would expect, and he couldn't have done any more. He scored some important goals. He actually effectively got the goal that won them the league title. He was popular with his teammates and popular with the fans. So I'm surprised. Even when Anthony Gordon signed, I still thought there was a possibility that Rashford would still go. But the signing of Adeyemi has put a stop to that.
Is it just wages? Because obviously Anthony Gordon would command a much lower weekly salary than Rashford.
But he was £80 million. Rashford was 26. Yeah. So 26 million, slightly difference in their ages as well. People are forgetting they've got Rafinha that plays there as well. So the problem positions that everyone thought they had, and they still have, are centre forward, Lewandowski leaving the club, and they should have bought a better centre back than what they currently have. They haven't done either of those. They just brought in two more wingers, So there's a little bit of work to do. It's proven to be a little bit problematic for Barcelona now. They keep producing youngsters, but there's no big, strong, powerful centre forward on the horizon, and they're having difficulty getting the Julian Alvarez deal done.
I was going to ask you about that because we've seen a bit of social media interaction. Atletico Madrid actually have been quite comical in the way they've responded to offers this summer. Where do you think he'll end up?
I did think Barcelona, but Atleti are digging their heels in, and it's going to make it difficult because the player clearly doesn't want to be there anymore. And we all know it is a problem when a player has made it clear that he wants to leave. He made it clear he only wanted to go to one club as well. So that stops the bargaining power of Atletico Madrid if he only wants to go to Barcelona. And Barcelona, they've been tapping him up, of course they have, and speaking to his people and his agent, his management. And Atleti have taken a great offence by that. So they're digging their heels in. I wouldn't be surprised to see that go through still, though.
You think that more likely to move to the Premier League? Because we know that Arsenal are interested as well. And obviously, Andrea Berta has a good relationship with the player.
Yeah, it depends on the fallout with Atletico Madrid. If they really put a stop to his Barcelona move, and Arsenal is the only option, he's made it clear he doesn't want to stay at Atletico Madrid. I think he said that because he wants to go to Barcelona. But if the fallout is that big, then I couldn't see him staying at Atletico Madrid. I think he would have burnt all his bridges. It would be difficult to see how that would be overcome in the coming months. So I don't see Julian Alvarez at Atletico Madrid next season. I would still say Barcelona are favourites, but it'd be interesting to see if that doesn't happen.
Terry, how do you feel about Madrid's recruitment? Obviously, Mourinho's season back. They seem to have been quite busy. Some good moves. You don't think they're going to be competitive with Barcelona? You think it'll be tight?
Oh, it will be competitive. They have to improve. They have to be better than they have been for the last 2 years, Dara. And it's interesting, the players that they've gone for. 3 new defenders. They've signed yesterday. Bernardo Silva has come into the club as well. So Crook Darragh, Ibrahim Konate from Liverpool, Denzel Dumfries as well. So they've stabilised the defence, which probably wasn't their biggest problem, if I'm being honest. They signed Dean Howson the season before. Alvaro Carreras came in for 50 million from Benfica as well. So it looks like both of those players might be not in the starting lineup for Liverpool. Trent Alexander-Arnold is another one. So there's plenty of competition for places at the back. Bernardo Silva is an interesting one. He is the type of player that they did need in midfield since they lost Toni Kroos and Luka Modric.
Yeah.
The interesting one for me, and I'm really surprised that it's ended up at Real Madrid, is Carlos Espy, who's a 21-year-old they bought yesterday. They paid the buyout clause from Levante for 25 million euros. If I'd have been a Premier League club, I would have paid that buyout clause within a couple of days of the season ending. So I think Real Madrid have done really good work. They've allowed Gonzalo Garcia to leave to go to Fulham. In my opinion, Espy is a better player than Gonzalo Garcia. He's a year younger, and they're making £15 million on it. And selling Gonzalo Garcia to Fulham, getting in Carlos Espy. He's 6'4", Carlos Espy. He was nearly got selected for the World Cup squad. He got 11 goals in 13 games at the end of last season for Levante. That was the first time he'd played in the first team in La Liga, and he saved his team from relegation. So that's what I'm saying. Within 2 or 3 days of the season ending, if I was a Premier League club, with a 21-year-old 6'4" centre forward who's good finishing with both feet, great in the air, good at hold-up play. He's got real potential, and Real Madrid have snapped him up. So that's going to be the interesting one because Endrick's coming back as well. And now you've got Carlos Espy. Are they going to play Diamandi, Mbappe, Vinicius, probably the starting 3? Brahim Diaz possibly might be on his way. A surplus of players there for Jose Mourinho to upset.
Question: Does the Rodri signing make them favourites to win the Liga?
I think it would. I think it's that big. He's clearly a player. Tchouameni would probably leave then. Tchouameni's been good. He's a good player, but Rodri is a step up. Yeah. And I think if they do get Rodri, that makes him, in my opinion, then favourites to win the title.
Enzo Maresca, the new Manchester City manager, actually has been speaking about the Rodri situation. He said it's just speculation at the moment. Rodri has had the surgery last Monday. Everything was fine. Now he'll have some days off and he'll be back with us when he finishes his holiday. Of course, he picked up a back issue during the World Cup. I know, Darry, you think that deal will happen. You mentioned Fulham there and the players they're signing from La Liga, Terry. Obviously, Arbeloa didn't have a brilliant spell in charge of Real Madrid, but he's someone that Jose Mourinho rated highly. I was told he actually put a call into Fulham to recommend him for the job. How do you think he's suited to the Premier League?
I'm not sure he's suited for any job, to be perfectly honest.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he had 6 months in charge of the B team. Prior to that, he was in charge of the youth team. He had 6 months in charge of the B team and suddenly was propelled into managing Real Madrid. By the end of the season, it was an absolute shambles. Players were fighting. We know that Tchouaméni and Valverde, we know that incident. I saw players having team talks on the pitch when they came out for the start of the second half with the manager sitting on the bench, looking bemused. It looked like the players were running the show, and to be honest, the players needed to. So I'm surprised he's then stepped in again as directly as manager of Fulham.
And he seems to be targeting players from Spain as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a big ask. I mean, he's taken 2 young players from Real Madrid that he knows well, or he's taken them. In Cesar Palacios, who's a number 10. That's probably to replace Harry Wilson. And Raul Jimenez's replacement is going to be Gonzalo Garcia. Both good players, don't get me wrong, but it's a big ask for Fulham for 2 experienced players to leave, 2 of their best players to leave, and be replaced by 2 young players from Real Madrid. So Fulham have gone all in on the Real Madrid link. They've given Arbeloa a couple of players that he wants. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that works out at Fulham.
Frustrates me that, a great job like Fulham straight away goes to a guy who's sacked out of Real Madrid, has got no pedigree before Real Madrid coming through academies, and you've got umpteen English managers and whatever else.
Is that autograph hunting on behalf of the Fulham owners? If Mourinho did put that call in?
No comment.
No, you can't do no comment. We've got a radio show.
Sorry, you want an opinion on it? I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's doing the deals there. It could go really well or it could be a disaster. And if you're a Fulham fan listening to Terry right now, you're basically in the boot of your car panicking.
Yeah. Barcelona in England tonight for a friendly against Birmingham. I think they're playing Preston as well, aren't they, over the next couple of days? Is that right?
Yeah, I think, you pay 500-600 grand, you can get these kind of teams in. I guess it's whether or not you're guaranteed to get the stars. Or
that was going to
be the 21s.
That was going to be my question, Terry. I mean, I take it we're not going to see Lamine Yamal in action at St Andrews.
They had 8 players in the World Cup squad.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be there. But do you know what? Every summer there is a breakout player, a young player that comes, and with Hansi Flick in particular, they do get their opportunities. Fermin Lopez will be there. He missed the World Cup through injury. But Hiddie's a perfect example of a player that had been out on loan in the lower divisions. Hansi Flick had to use him in a pre-season match, loved him, and he's become a star. So there's always that possibility with Barcelona that they do unearth. It's not a possibility, it's a probability that another young player will make a breakthrough this season and probably make a start in the pre-season games.
Terry, cheers for joining us.
Thanks, Terry.
Always good to see you. Enjoy the rest of your summer. A couple of breaking stories, Darragh, that I think you'll be interested in. Certainly the first one. Inter Milan have made a third approach for Curtis Jones.
Sell him.
Via intermediaries, they are willing to pay €35 million. Not viewed as a bid, but according to sources close to the situation, it follows similar approaches of €25 million and €32 million. This offer is unlikely to be accepted. Looking for €40 million plus.
I think in the current market, his age and everything else, you're thinking 35 sterling as a guaranteed fee plus at least 10, 12 million in extra add-ons to bring it to 40, 45.
Yeah.
That's the going rate. If I were Liverpool, I'd be ringing Parish at Palace and saying, there's Curtis Jones and 40 million on top for your boy.
And another big break.
Sorry, Palace fans.
From Martin Ziegler.
Here we go. He's been through someone's bin. What's going on?
FIFA yesterday issued a brief to possibly expand the World Cup to 64 teams. This was something Infantino has floated about. Decision to be made, he understands, by August the 14th. He ends his tweet by saying, I wonder who would benefit most. Maybe it'd be private investors if we had an expanded World Cup.
Yeah, I think we all knew that was already on the horizon with the previous expansion. We were talking about this.
But will that only happen if Infantino retains power?
No, I think whoever comes in can see that the big World Cup we just had with more teams was actually brilliant. It was brilliant. So the more the better. And hopefully that makes it easier for Ireland to qualify, because I'd love to go to a World Cup with the Irish national team there.
And actually 64 is a better number, isn't it? Because it means you can have more groups, but therefore you're not getting the third place teams.
Absolutely. Seriously, how good was it this summer?
No, it was great.
And you had a lot of critics going, oh my God, they're expanding, it's not going to be as good. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Latest FIFA news. I'm sure there'll be more throughout the day. We are going to get on to those Roberto De Zerbi quotes in the next part of the programme.
John is a Newcastle fan, joins us now. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, very well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
John, hold on. John, are you John, the Jack Charlton's son, John?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Oh, John, what a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much for that.
Thanks very much.
Are you good? Are you well?
I'm very well. Very well.
Good.
Can't complain at all.
It's quite ironic that you phoned up. You know what the date is today, right? July the 30th.
Yes, I do.
60 years ago today, your dad won the World Cup with England.
Yes, and funny enough, me and Eddie were talking about his medal.
Yeah.
I think there's only him and my Uncle Bobby who have kept their medals. Everybody else doesn't have them anymore.
Where's your dad's medal?
I've got it.
Have you?
Mm.
Oh, my
Yeah, I do.
goodness.
Well, there's a bit of a problem with it, actually. When I say I've got it, it was left to me in my dad's will.
Yeah.
But the taxman wants £200,000 off me in inheritance tax.
Oh, you're not going to sell it, are you?
No, I've had to give it back. I've given it back to my mother.
Right.
Because while she's got it, I don't have to pay that money.
How has he come up with that figure? I mean, this is a conversation for another day, sorry, but how on earth has a taxman come up with 200 grand inheritance tax for a World Cup medal?
I've no idea.
That's
There's
disgusting.
a journalist from the Daily Mirror who's been working on it and helping us to try and sort it out.
talkSPORT News.
Good afternoon with your latest news headlines. I'm Emma Smith. Southport killer Axel Rudiger has been charged with 3 attacks while in prison and possessing a weapon. He was recently transferred from Belmarsh Prison to Broadmoor. Here's talkSPORT's Sinead Garvan with more.
Axel Rudiger has been charged with 3 assaults, including attempted GBH, which took place at HMP Belmarsh between May and October last year. The 19-year-old serving a 52-year sentence after murdering 3 girls and injuring 8 children and 2 adults in the Southport attack. He'll appear before Westminster Magistrates Court by video link in September.
Firefighters are tackling a blaze on grassland in Essex. More than 30 firefighters are at a nature reserve south of Colchester. It says a wildfire in Suffolk, close to a nuclear plant, has stabilised. Nearly 50,000 migrants have crossed into the Spanish territory of Ceuta from Morocco by land and sea in just 24 hours. Troops have been deployed to boost security. Excuse me. At least 18 people have died. Mayors in England won't be able to offer local tax rebates under the government's devolution plans. Instead, they'll keep a share of income tax and business rates to spend on projects like transport, housing and jobs. The government's yet to say how much they'll get. And UK house prices crept up by 0.1% in July. Nationwide says the average home now costs just over £277,000.
talkSPORT Sports Headlines with Bostik. For professional grade sealants with easy application and a perfect finish, pros trust Bostik.
Where now for Infantino after one of his advisors quit over his World Cup sale plans. And Franco Baresi is hailed as one of the very best after his death at the age of just 66. Toby has more at 1.
Alex Crook alongside the the Peterborough owner, Darragh McAnthony, until 1 o'clock this afternoon. I've just retired, you know. A couple of texts coming in, pushing back on the idea of a 64-team World Cup. Ed in Lambourne says, why bother even having qualifying? Just have every team. Who wants Faroe Islands against Luxembourg? Another texter, Rick in Scunthorpe, says, so the World Cup is extended to 64 teams, but that will eventually affect lower league clubs. Players will complain more about too many games than before we know it. The League Cup has gone along with the revenue.
No, I hear all the arguments and all the points. I mean, Scottish football's back tonight. I mean, you know, I get it. You know, dearie me, players are going to have to play, I don't know, 10 months instead of 9. Was that what you're telling me? For the money they get paid? What's the big deal? I think it would be good. The more nations at a World Cup, the better. As for disrespecting Luxembourg and Faroe Islands, you know, I'm sure no one had Cape Verde taking the world champions to the 12th round on their bingo card.
And drawing 0-0 with Spain, of course.
Yeah, you know, so come on, please.
Yeah, no,
be respectful.
I think I'm coming down on your side of the argument,
Yeah,
which is,
as you should do.
Which is painful for me.
It's logical.
Now Tottenham, the biggest spenders in the Premier League so far this summer. Roberto De Zerbi has been speaking during their pre-season tour. He described himself as, quote, like a shark when looking to complete the signing of a desired player. He also said, and he's got Spurs fans excited on social media, we've completed 60% of our project in the transfer market. Now we have another bomber.
Ooh, he's really talking a good game, isn't he?
He is.
I think what he's doing is he's almost browbeating the owners to follow him along. You know,
Well, he did that when he took the job.
Yeah,
He made
He's doing
such
it right.
an extensive list of demands.
He
He
did.
basically got the
He
keys
did.
to the
He
kingdom.
did. Look, it's Spurs fans have had a couple of crappier seasons in the league, and I guess there's going to be a lot of optimism and excitement this summer, as opposed to the last 2 summers, right? And there's still a couple of pieces short of being competing in the top 6. But if you look at clubs last year and the clubs that were vying for Bournemouth, vying for the top 4, there's no doubt Spurs can be back in business.
What would constitute a bomber at this stage of the window? Because we know Tottenham have got long-standing interest in Savinho. We understand the player would like
That'd be a great signing.
Would make that move. We talked about Marcus Rashford. Could they even be part of the conversation when it comes to Barcola at PSG?
No. With all due respect to Spurs fans, but Barcola is going to a club that's won the league recently. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion, whether that would be Arsenal or Liverpool, so that would constitute that. I think it would be Rashford would be a phenomenal signing for them. Savinho, another great signing. They pull a striker out of the bag from somewhere. There's a lot of them out there.
Are there a lot of them out there? Top strikers?
No, that will come up in the next 3 or 4 weeks. You know, in that age bracket. So it'd be interesting. But I think he says 60%, so he's intimating what they still need 3 signings.
Yeah, maybe
still to come, whatever. So, and I think they've got business going the other way. Let's not forget, as much as Spurs have spent, they've brought a few quid in, and they've still got money to go with the Swedish kid leaving.
Yeah, I mean they've told him he can't leave, but
he's going to be leaving.
Negotiating tactics.
He's going to be leaving. As soon as they get 40 million plus or whatever it's going to be, that he will leave. So, yeah, I think it's good for a football club when you have a couple of rocky years or crappy years, so you can go the other way.
Well, let's hear from the former Tottenham defender, Toby Alderweireld, shall we? He was on Breakfast earlier this week, and he was quite vocal in his criticism of this standard set at the club.
My feeling is that, of course, I'm not every day in that group, and it's easy to say this where I am. But my feeling is, in my time, everyone was so proud to play for the badge. We worked so hard. We did everything for the club, and sometimes that's something I miss, you know. You see you hear some things, you read some things about the captain, and he's not there, and then you get a red card, and you don't feel like they are really involved. But again, it's easy to see it from the outside. But that's what in my period was totally different.
Jeez, the serial trophy winner speaking there, is he? When he was at Spurs, I mean, do me a favour.
Get them to a Champions League final. Part of that team, I think.
Was that the one Liverpool won? Yeah, but
dodgy handball.
Nobody remembers runners-ups, yeah, Crookie. So
you do if you're Tottenham.
Yeah. Well, they won a trophy recently, haven't they? There you go.
The dog and duck beat the Red Lion.
Oh, stop! Stop! Come on now.
I'm not
European
over it.
trophy.
I'm not over it.
Well, you shouldn't be as a United fan. Anyway,
I'll never get over that. Who's he having a pop at there? Because Christian Romero.
He's definitely having a go at Romero. And they're going to sell him as well.
Yeah.
That's why Spurs have got a little bit of runway to go on signing. So you'd expect Romero to go as well. He's having a go at him and the whole captaincy thing where, did he end up going to that game in the end or not?
Yeah. But under duress, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he
of course.
Planning on attending relegation
for that to come
decider.
I'll be honest about him. I've always saw him as a liability.
Me too.
You know, his head, the red cards, the ill discipline. You look at some of the defensive actions. You know, you think there's a great player in there. Potentially could be an elite player in there. But now he's getting to the age where you're like, well, it's now or never. Is it going to happen? I think it'd be good business for him to move him on.
And what have you made of the incoming so far? Jan-Paul van Hekken seemed a lot of money, £52 million, bearing in mind he only had a year left on his contract. But then we hear about Vuskovic going the other way.
That's a great signing because the manager knows him. So this manager is very specific how he plays, and that player is going to be very specific on how that's played through the lines. You know what I mean, from the pivot. So I like that as a signing for Spurs, and a very good defender.
Senesi and Robertson both on free transfers. Any concerns about Robertson? Because speaking of Liverpool fans, they weren't overly enamoured with his performances last season.
I don't think that's fair. At the end of the day, of course, he's on the wrong side of 30. I think what you're getting is you're getting a leader. Yeah. And you're getting a great character. It's is he past his prime? He's probably on the back end of his career, yes. But with all due respect to Spurs fans, I think that's exactly the type of character you need in there. A la Henderson going to Chelsea.
Yeah.
So I think it's a decent signing.
And Tonali obviously was the headline, £100 million, huge wages.
But I agree with you that potentially they need another wide player and potentially another striker, depending on injuries up front.
Newcastle fan, it's been a busy 24 hours for you. Looks like they are closing in on the signing of Lucas Hornacek from Braga. A fee agreed of €30 million. That's the release clause. He's a Czech international. New goalkeeper competition for Nick Pope. They were in for James Trafford at one stage. But
they needed that, didn't they?
Too high the price and the wages.
Yeah, so Ramsdale didn't come off, did he? And so
I wonder where he'll end up because he's back on the bench at Southampton. Aaron Ramsdale, and
it's just I don't know where his career's gone, is he? Since he's got the big move, and it was over so quickly at Arsenal, and you thought,
he had a brilliant first season.
He did, and then bang, he's replaced. So that's good business for Newcastle. And I think what they need to do now is churn out some signings every week. I think they need to start changing the flow of information, get some positive news out there. But it's easier said than done.
I just wonder who did that deal. Was it Eddie Howe, or was it the incoming manager?
That would be the recruitment department. It's nothing to do with the managers at the club. I mean, these clubs now are working that way. It's almost like they're on autopilot.
Yeah. We're still awaiting formal confirmation of Howe's departure. So
tell me why that is. What's going on at Newcastle?
Well, I think they're waiting to get this deal for Gisela completely sealed.
What's that got to do with Eddie Howe leaving?
And then they will announce the new manager and the departing one. I think at the same time, actually,
shouldn't be more respectful.
I agree.
Saying goodbye to Eddie.
Yeah.
And then the next day.
And he deserves a good send-off.
Yeah, of course. Well, geez, are you kidding me? What, 2 Champions Leagues, a trophy. Things he's done.
Some brilliant.
It's been historic, right?
Hammered PSG at St James's Park.
But it's historic. He made history. Yeah. I think if you're a great manager and you leave a club, you want to say, I made history. And I think you made history for Newcastle.
And you tried to get me in trouble with Newcastle fans a couple of weeks ago.
But I was right. You're constantly piling on about Newcastle. You do it off air. You're snidey on air about Newcastle at times.
That is not true.
Then you turn around and smile and say a nice comment. You lick backsides trying to be nice.
No.
Why don't you just be honest?
No.
You're being disingenuous.
No, all I'm going to say is the Newcastle fans who were upset with Eddie Howe at the end of last season because they finished 12th.
You were upset with them, were you?
I said at the time, be careful what you wish for. And I think that those supporters will only truly appreciate what Eddie Howe has done now that he's gone.
In defence of Newcastle fans, they pay...
It's a minority, in fact.
No, they pay their money. They watch the team all the time, unlike you. And they probably saw a very tired product last year. So this is what football fans do, regardless how historic the manager is or how iconic.
But is that the manager's fault? Because... Did he get enough protection from the hierarchy, Eddie Howe? I mean, I mentioned that earlier when we were talking.
They will say it's his fault that he had no plan B, C, and D. Okay. They will say it's his fault. Well, you should have said last year, I want Isak gone now. I don't want Isak dragging on all summer because we've got these 3 targets we need to go and sign. So maybe Eddie needed to be more forceful with the board last summer. That was the time for him to go and threaten, hey, if you don't sort this out, bring me in signings, I'm walking. They would have been more worried about that last year than this year when they finished 12th. That was the time to do it.
What about the fact they've missed out on players to Brighton and Aston Villa?
Yeah, that's the business. Look, clubs miss out on players all the time.
Should Newcastle be losing out to players to Brighton? Should that be happening?
Why are you so disrespectful towards Brighton?
No, but I love Brighton. Stop trying to get
it was almost like your words there. It was almost like you were disgusted by saying that.
No, but who's a bigger club, Newcastle or Brighton?
I would say, obviously Newcastle with the fan base.
So that's my point. Nothing against Brighton.
Hang on. But Brighton are now, you can call them a powerhouse in the Premier League, but they're one of the top 10 clubs for the last 10 years in the Premier League. And by the way, they're shrewd operators. And every player who goes to Brighton knows there's always going to be a pathway.
Yeah.
So Newcastle fans and everyone complain about them selling their best players. If you don't win trophies, your best players want to leave. If Arsenal hadn't won a league last year and didn't win a trophy again this year, guess what? Some of their best players would want to leave for the right price. So Newcastle have to do both. They have to win trophies, try and keep their best players. If not, you recycle. That's the way it goes. But if they stop players moving on, the best players won't go to Newcastle.
And obviously, you've still got the geographical issue as well. That's a historic issue. That
of course, and that's for every club. Yeah. Even for Peterborough, trying to sign players from the north, and it's geography. I had a player in the summer. We offered a 3-year deal to, and I went to a 4-year in the end. and he took 2 to go somewhere that was 2 minutes from where his kids go to school. And he did it because of his missus. And, at the end of the day, look, geography you can't fight with. It's difficult.
And I love Brighton, by the way. I love Tony Bloom.
Don't start backtracking.
I love Fabian Hurst.
No. I'm sorry.
Do not get me in trouble.
No. Do you know what? I'm ringing Tony Bloom after this when I'm on the tube, and I'm saying the disgust and arrogance in the voice of Alex Crooks. Don't ever let him near that building again.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Honestly.
I was going to read out a nice text message in your direction. No, I'm not going to do it now.
Is it from your wife again?
It's 1:45.
Come on, read it. Come on.
Now, the Asian Football Confederation in the last couple of hours have come out and condemned Gianni Infantino's proposals to sell off
very late condemnations, aren't they? They're all panicking.
Competitions. Well, they are. Obviously, UEFA have come out strongest by suggesting they would boycott all FIFA competitions, including the Men's and Women's World Cup, the Club World Cup. There's actually an under-20 Women's World Cup that's due to start in September, so we may find out if they'll go through with that threat very soon. UEFA's 55 member associations held an emergency meeting earlier this week, and as I say, they voted a boycott if FIFA proceeds with plans to sell stakes in its competitions to private investors. There was a statement released by FIFA. I think it was 4:00 this morning UK time, so we were all napping. They said nobody is selling football, but they did vow to continue with the controversial proposal to sell stakes in its competition to private investors. FIFA, in their statement, claimed the consultation process had been, quote, disrupted by incorrect media reports.
My answer to this is that everyone always screams about FIFA's a bit of a dictatorship, but it's actually a democracy whereby you still have to have all the nations vote for this through, Alex, right?
Yes.
So Infantino can't just force it through. It was never going to happen that way, and I think it's dead in the water now.
Well, I was just about to come on to that. So in order for this proposal to be passed, FIFA's 211 members would need to vote. Therefore, Infantino would need 100. Minutes until I'm free for the weekend.
Stop having a go at Brighton in between these breaks.
Absolutely outrageous. Kenny in Edinburgh says, if you have a minute, please could you ask Darragh his opinion on clubs like Hearts with the Fans Foundation?
Can you read what he really said in the text?
Well,
I won't answer until you read that fully. No, read that fully.
Just a quick shout out to Darragh. What a great listen this week. Someone with an opinion who puts his money where his...
Thank you very much, you see. Honest to goodness. I mean, what do I think of Hearts? I think what they did last year was fabulous. I think the Bloom connection is brilliant. I think they're already good people there. Yeah. We sold a player, Frankie Kent, up there, so I know what goes on behind the scenes. They've lost a lot of good people this summer, and obviously they're going to have to go to work on that. So it's like every other football club. But as a Celtic fan, I always want Celtic to win the league. But worst case scenario, if Hearts ended up winning, I think maybe it's good for business up there.
What do you make of Andy Burnham saying that Gianni Infantino should resign?
Yeah, look, I don't want to get political. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he's probably the 9th Prime Minister in the last 2 years or whatever else.
7 in 10, I think.
You know what I mean?
Sounds like Vicarage Road.
Yeah, look, he's a football fan, isn't he? And I guess he's trying to win over all the football fans, but lots of these come out about drinking at games and all the rest of it. So I guess his advisors would say he's doing a very good job PR-wise.
He's been speaking to reporters up in Sheffield, outlining plans for further powers for regional mayors, but he strayed into football. He said the idea that it could even be brought forward, in my view, shows that the FIFA General Secretary is the wrong man to lead the organisation. We do know he's a big sports fan. We debate.
Yeah. He's an Everton fan, isn't he? Is he an Everton fan? Yeah.
Do you think Infantino should resign?
Yes. Yes.
You think his position's
not because of this deal. I think the PR around it. I think his position is to bring as much revenue into FIFA as possible. I think he dropped the ball with the Trump and red card situation in the summer. He could have squashed that really easily at the start and said, look, nothing to do with me. It's gone to a committee. Yes, the president rang me. Quite normal. We're in America. We speak. And I told him, nothing to do with me. There's a panel. And then he's dropped the ball with this where it's been leaked. He couldn't trust the people around him. I get he's trying to bring revenue and build all that. And then there's the whole Kushner kind of avenue and the involvement. So, yeah, I think he should go.
Just gone power crazy, isn't he, Infantino?
I think, yeah, it goes to your head. I think, he's in private jets flying all over America. He's seen really important world leaders. He's got a hell of a contact book, but I don't think he'd be short of a few quid, and I'm sure he'll walk into some nice paid jobs afterwards.
Let's talk about Harvey Elliott. He was in action for Liverpool last night in that friendly when Curtis Jones got himself into a spat with his own teammate Dominic Szoboszlai. He believes, Harvey Elliott, that he's got a second chance now at Liverpool. He also denied that his ill-fated loan move to Aston Villa basically cost him a year of his career. He joined Villa on a season's loan pretty close to the end of the summer transfer window. There was an obligation to buy Elliott for £35 million once he made 10 Premier League appearances. He only actually played 277 minutes in total. Seemingly doesn't hold a grudge against Villa and the way he was treated there by Unai Emery. Do you see that he has a future at Anfield?
I think he speaks well in public. I'm sure maybe he might think, otherwise. But that's football. It's not like you lost a career. There's nothing wrong with what Villa did. And you feel for the boy that it didn't go to plan. But, that's what a deal's all about. And Villa had the option, not to go through with it. He's a talented young player. I don't think, he did great in the Euros for the under-21s, didn't he? Like was the World under-21s? I can't remember what it was. Yeah, he was like player of the tournament and whatever else. He hasn't kicked on. He's 22 now, 23. The next move's got to be the right one for him. I'm not sure he's going to play a lot of Liverpool, but with the injuries and if they don't recruit, maybe he will. But I always liked him when he did well and he came in under Jurgen. He never quite got a place in the team, but he was a very good squad player at a young age.
Do they have a defensive issue, Liverpool? Joe Gomez went off after 8 minutes against Sunderland. We understand he's going to miss the start of the new Premier League season. Jeremy Jacquet, Giovanni Leone, two up-and-coming youngsters. They're both not fit either. Virgil van Dijk, the only fully fit senior centre-back. He's 35 and he played every minute in the Premier League last season. I think even Areola has said the squad is thin defensively.
Yeah, and I understand and sympathise with we had a similar thing at Peterborough where my fans are crying out for me to sign another central defender, and we've got two coming back from injuries. The two coming back are two of the heaviest paid players at our club. And then we have another two centre-halves who are also really well paid, and then we got a fifth young centre-half. My fans we need to sign a sixth centre-half. You can't keep signing players. There are salary caps, there's PSR, there's all the rules. And Liverpool might say, well, when everyone's fit, we're going to end up with too many defenders, and a massive percentage of that in defence is going towards salary. Whereas we might need a right back. We might need a central midfielder. So I empathise. Let's see over the next week who comes back. The kid from the ACL is coming back rehab. The new signing is going to make his debut this weekend, I believe.
Jacquet.
Yeah, so, let's see. It's too early to be screaming out about we need more centre-halves.
But is this why they're also determined to drive such a hard bargain for Curtis Jones? Because they need that cash to reinvest. And just to reiterate, we understand a third verbal offer has gone in from Inter Milan that we expect to fall short of Liverpool.
Yeah, I think Liverpool know that they need a right winger, they need a midfielder, and they probably need a right-back slash centre-back right-back. So they have got some business to do. And in today's rates, that means they're going to need probably 200 million to be able to spend that money.
Another family member's been in touch with you, Rich. Fantastic show with Darragh, far better than Simon. Love to know if Darragh thinks West Ham will be promoted. Worries me that every team in the Championship will be looking to West Ham as their cup final. I think they should walk that league, West Ham.
West Ham will walk that league. I think they should buy Harrison Burrows, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nice little sell-off for you.
Listen, I'm telling you, the best left-backs in the league, a year ago? You know what I mean? Didn't struggling team last year, did okay. But yeah, I think he'd be a great signing for them. Goals, assists. I think West Ham will walk the league, I do.
Yeah.
I think that'll be over by March.
They're looking at a dinger, I think, at Sunderland.
Really, at left back?
No, he was a winger.
I was a winger, sorry.
And you would imagine he would do well in the Championship.
How much are they going to spend on
£20 million?
Well, one thing I'd say about West Ham now, the fans are going to want to see, are we spending money?
Yeah.
Because they've just brought in, 160, 170 million
from Fernandez.
Yeah, the 2 sales they made.
What was the other sale?
What's his name? Somerville,
yeah.
who went to the UAE. So again, are they going to spend money? I mean, they've got a squad, a very good squad, but again, they're going to need a couple of championship type players.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, to get them out of there. But I expect that done by March.
I met a West Ham fan at Goodwood. Actually, he just reminded me on my way out on Wednesday. I think it was. He was quite optimistic about the start of the
I
new
also
season.
think that the owner, who's been there a couple of years now, the Czech fella, he's worth a lot of dough. So
and he's taking more of a lead role.
I think they're going to be. I think they're going to do quite well.
Yeah.
But like I said to you, there'll be that starts in 2 weeks' time, and I don't think they've signed a lot of players.
No, they haven't. But I think they're determined to sign the right players rather than just splash that cash. And
I get it. Keeping Bowen was important.
Yeah, huge. But
Huge.
clubs know they've got that money that you've mentioned burning a hole in their pocket, and therefore the asking prices really rise. don't
Listen, been there, seen it, and done it. You know what I mean? Were you surprised Bowen stayed?
they? No, because I just think his age, no one was really going to pay the type of money West Ham would want.
Sure.
And I think
is that fair to him?
Well, I think he feels his England career is probably over already.
No, but
having
you're
not made
30,
World Cups.
you're out of the Prem. Is it fair to him, to keep him in the Championship?
I think he's fairly settled, isn't he?
Yeah, he seems to be. I think that's gone in their favour. Geography again.
Yeah. And just back to the Liverpool conversation, are you concerned there's no Mo Salah replacement in the building as yet?
No, Mo Salah was crap last year, with all due respect. So, I am concerned there hasn't been a replacement, but I'm optimistic they'll get one. I think they've got a manager that can do great things. He's already dealing with some of the young players on tour. We'll be okay this year.
They've been linked with Yankuba Minte down at Brighton.
Seen that, yeah. But Brighton obviously always like a few quid for their players, don't they? Best sellers in the business.
Where do you think they'll finish, Liverpool? What's a realistic expectation?
I think they'll finish second or third.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think they'll come on strong. I think they'll win a cup. I think it'll be Arsenal and Man City. If Rodri stays, Man City win the league. Because I think whoever's driving the bus will win the league with the squad that's now been put together. And it's almost like Pep going is good for a year because it's now a new manager and everyone's to attention. So I do. I think the focus will be on. If Arsenal go back to back, I fear as a Liverpool fan when we get a chance to win the league again.
Really?
Well, I do, because that's just Arsenal's going to keep growing, getting stronger, and then you got Man City and everything else. So yeah, Man City to win the league, Liverpool finish second or third.
You off to do some signings of your own this afternoon? Some of your fans have been texting me, but concerned.
Show me those texts, you liar. You're just trying to stir the pot, aren't you? I'm working my cojones off on that front, yeah. But it's a bit like what you just said about people know you've money and this, that, whatever else, they get silly.
Yeah.
So I am trying.
Well, good luck with that. You've got a friendly tomorrow as well. I'm back with you Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, enjoy it.
I think.
Have a great weekend, brother.
We got Ollie Klink and Luke Moore and live racing from Glorious Goodwood on the way next. This is talkSPORT.
King Edward I, long live the King, gave us the best day that every fan, I'm sure they'll ever remember as a black and white supporter. But he should have gone after Fulham at the last game of the season. And I think the leadership have just let this one get out of control a little bit. They should have took ownership of that after Fulham at the last game of the season.
What was it after that game, mate? What was it at the end of last season that you saw that you wanted him to move on?
Well, it was before Fulham, lads. So unfortunately, it was after them lot beat us for the second time at St James's.
Yeah.
Now, at full time, for the first time in his regime, a section of the fans turned on him, and I was shell shocked. Just stood there listening, and I just left the ground just with my mouth shut and obviously devastated. But since that match, and I could be wrong, some of the fans might come on and disagree with me, but there was a turn of feeling and chemistry inside the ground.
Okay.
But for the ownership and the chief exec to sit there and say by 2030 we want to win the league, they haven't been ruthless enough at the end of the season to make that change.
Fair comment.
Did they say that before or after that Sunderland game? Because that was around February, March when they said that, wasn't it?
It was just before. So we got our heads handed to us in Barcelona on the Wednesday night, and then it was the Sunderland game. 60 minutes, we played well, and then we just... It happened too many times last season. 28 points that we let just flutter away into the season. If we got even half of...